he's doing. So Steve Stockton, from his early years, has had what can be called strange and oftentimes frightening experiences with the paranormal and unexplained. These encounters led him to search for the answers, only to discover that the truth isn't easy to find. And then we have Miss Gemma Jade, and she is an author, researcher, and internet personality from New Jersey. She has a popular YouTube channel, and along with Steve Stockton, is half of the internet power couple Stemma. I like that. She's currently at work on a book investigating the connection between missing persons and the Fae to be released this summer. And Steve, you also have a new release as well that just came out.
Yeah, it just came out in April. National Park Mysteries and Disappearances, Volume 1, The Great Smoky Mountains.
And Gemma, man, I was watching your channel. It's pretty awesome. I love the stories that you're doing, and that you're actually doing. I think that's what the one that you're talking about, the little girl that went missing, and she was talking about it being white for 2 days, and little people the size of her cat or whatnot, little critters.
Yep.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, thank you. I try to get things that I don't hear all the time on YouTube. I've been trying recently to get things that people, they're even telling me, like, you know, oh, I've never heard that one before. And that's kind of what I like to do. I like to dig a little bit deeper. My videos are usually pretty long, a lot longer than most, just because I want to give that extra information.
So are you originally from New Jersey?
I am born and raised.
Wow.
Born and raised in northern New Jersey, born and mostly raised in Patterson, but now I live a little bit further.
Very nice. Man, you guys are like clear across the country from each other. How did you guys find each other?
Actually, she commented on some videos that I'd done, and I commented back, and she total fangirled. And then she asked me to come and look at her channel, and I went over there and saw, and just you had what, like 100 subscribers or something at that time. It just wasn't a lot, and but I saw something there. I saw Diamond in the Rough, and I knew watching her, she wasn't reading it. She was just doing it off the top of her head. She had taken all this information in like a sponge and then was putting it back out in a really nice cohesive format. And I'm just like, hey, would you like to write for the channel? And then it just kind of went from there. And then from working closely with each other on doing the channel and stuff, we found out we had a chemistry there and worked really well together and played well off of each other. So we just kind of took it and ran with it, and now we are Stemma. That's the name that's been pinned on us. We do a lot of stuff together. We've got a book that we're doing together coming up. Now I'm writing the foreword in a little bit for her Faye book, but the other one, the paranormal one we're both in on that. So just one of those things that works well together.
Yeah, it was nice for me. Steve was definitely my favorite of everything on YouTube. Just his voice, the way Steve tells the story. It's not just how he sounds, it's how he tells it. You can hear like this respect and sympathy when he's talking about the true crime, the people that go missing. You can tell that like his heart's really in it, even though he probably doesn't know them, And I totally fangirled. I had commented something, silly, and then he had emailed me or commented, Facebook messaged, and I was on Facebook like, oh my God, Steve Stockton just Facebooked me, and there's like me in capital letters with big exclamation points. But it was so nice because I kind of felt I was like finding another piece to myself. Like we have so many of the same experiences, so many of the same interests, and it just flows so easily. Now it's like there's never one without the other. Anything I'm doing, I always send it to him, and I'm like, is this good? And he'll tell me like, yeah, go with that or change this. So it's really awesome. He's mentored me and really helped me out with my channel.
And she's learned to write the way I like to read. And there's nothing worse than somebody that writes something for you, and then you have to go in and edit it and change things, like I'd never say that, or I don't talk like that, or this needs to be there. She's got it spot on. Usually I know when I get a script from her, I can just go straight through it. I do my own little intro and outro, and the rest of it's all good.
That is awesome. I'm so glad you guys found each other, and you totally fanned out.
So am I.
Steve is amazing. He actually, I guess, put a bug in, is it Anne's ear? To put me on Sundays too, and I was totally grateful for that.
Yeah, and
instead of just being Saturdays.
Station manager over there at KPNL, and we just had you on Saturday. And I run the simulcast. I run the live feed on the broadcast side, and I'm like, we need to get her on. If she broadcast 2 nights, let's have her on another night, because I don't even remember what we had on Sunday, but it wasn't as good as you. I love your show. You have some interesting guests, and always something different, something to look forward to.
I love it. It's my me time.
If you were on 5 nights a week, 7 nights a week, we have Dave Scott on 5 nights a week, and I think you used to do his show on the weekends, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I did his show for over 2 years on the weekends.
Yeah, I like
Started
Dave.
off. Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Jim and I went on there together, and we smashed a bunch of records. I think it still stands as far as the most views.
Yeah, we did really, really good. That was really fun. And I totally get the me time thing. I was telling Steve that once I get some free time, because I'm a full-time mom to a toddler, and then I do YouTube full-time. So once I get a little bit more time, I want to do something like that, like something that he can produce or something for me, but it's like just me talking about things and going through either true crime or paranormal, kind of the same thing I do on my channel, but like in a live format, a little bit different. But Steve is really great like that, where he wants to see other people succeed. Like, he's given me all of these opportunities, and it's just like, he doesn't have to be a part of everything I do. That's something that I invite him to do, or he'll invite me to do. I think with this comes like a little bit of ego, but Steve, like, it's not there. Like, he genuinely wants other people to succeed. And I think a lot of people see that in him, and that's why everyone loves Steve. We don't get negative comments about Steve, like, ever. Everyone loves him.
They all pick on you. No, I get a few every now and then. But I've been blessed by all this stuff. I mean, I haven't had to work a regular job in years. I do YouTube, I do voiceover work, I write books, and I get to be here at home all the time, and that's just perfect for me. I'm a hermit by choice anyway. And I figure, what good is success if you can't share it with people? And just, it's great to be able to share it with somebody like Gemma that I saw so much potential in. And I just kind of had that vibe when she started commenting on my videos. My grandma was a gypsy witch and all that, my granny senses just kind of tingled. And something was just like, you need to pay attention to this one. And I did. I went and checked out her videos. Like I said, I was just really impressed, and I saw all kinds of potential there. She may surpass me at some point.
I don't know about all that, but thank you.
So when you write for Steve, is that for your missing persons show that you do, or which show does she write for you?
It's for missing persons and mysteries, and then we've done some stuff together ourselves. We have a podcast called Strange Things with Steve and Gemma, but it's been on hiatus for a while. We just got so caught up in other things that we're doing that we haven't been able to get back in that. And then she does the true crime, and then missing persons and mysteries. We've decided we're going to spin off True Crime Case Files channel, so she'll be on that, and she'll be writing for that as well as being a part of it. She's actually a partner in that one, so...
And I recently wrote, I think it was an hour long or an hour and a half long documentary for them on the smiley face killers.
Yeah, looking
and I write
to that.
A lot of the true crime cases, and again, the missing and the fae. That's something that it kind of just fell upon me to start researching. It was weird because fairies were something kind of in my periphery, like Bigfoot and cryptids. I was never really too interested in them. It was just something I kind of had to talk about sometimes because it comes with the territory of the paranormal on YouTube. But now I'm totally interested in it. I want to know everything about it. And in researching just the first Missing in the Fae video, just to get that out, everyone's reaction to it was so amazing. I started, like, I am drowning in fairy information. Like, you don't understand. I could write 5 books on the Missing in the Fae and just connect it all together.
Start a series.
Yeah, it's not my theory. Like, I'm not the first one to connect the Fae with the missing people, but not many people are doing it, and I've made some of my own connections that are mine, things that I do think are going on. So that's really exciting too, when I come up with something that if I look for it, I don't find it anywhere else. That's like my favorite thing, because then that's truly mine. That's truly something that I worked hard to find. I go down so many rabbit holes sometimes. Like I've been in front of my computer today for 13 straight hours, like
Right.
finishing the book and writing for
Welcome to
Missing
my
Persons
world.
Mysteries. Yeah, and my channel and doing this but I love it. I love it, and I wouldn't change it for anything. I get to stay home and take care of my toddler and work, and do something I absolutely love. I've been interested in true crime my entire life. When I started watching horror movies at like 3, so it's like kind of in me, in my blood.
I had a background in that as well in the 80s and 90s. I wrote for some of those true crime magazines that you used to be able to find like at the grocery store checkout or in the drugstores, whatever. And also as a reporter, a stringer for some of the local papers in the South. So I got to attend a lot of murder trials. And there was actually a time when I got a P.O. box and I was writing some of these guys just to see if they'd write back, and then I'd do feature pieces on them. At one time, I had letters from Charles Manson, Tex Watson, John Wayne Gacy, several of the heavy hitters, if you will, like that. And just it got to a point though that it was really creeping me out. I bought one of Gacy's paintings. I had one of the skull clowns, and at the time he couldn't sell them because of the Son of Sam law. So he had a lawyer friend in Louisiana that was selling them for him. And I bought one of those, and just sometimes I'd be sitting there and I'd just look up on my wall and think about the person that painted that. And I'd just become a father at the time, and I thought that's got to go. And I think I paid like $100 for it. I sold it for $300 and thought, ha ha.
Oh wow.
But now, if I'd hung on to it, they're going for anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, I think. So once they did finally execute him, all his artwork went up. But it had that creep factor to it.
Not worth the juju that it brought with it. I think things can hold on to energy, that's bad energy. What have those hands done? And now they're creating this thing that you have in your house, and you don't know what kind of lost spirit of maybe perhaps one of his victims had been following him around and got stuck on that. I believe in that 100%. I live with a hoarder. And I'm not talking about a collector. I'm talking about an extreme hoarder. And with me, it's like, get that stuff out of here. Like, I look at certain objects and I'm just like, oh God, like, get it out of the house. I just get that feeling that I would not want that in my house. I don't care how much it's worth. Yeah. It wouldn't be worth it to me. And on a soul level, not worth it.
Even with the letters, too, especially the Manson letters, they were pure Charlie. They didn't make any sense. I remember one time we were talking about computers, and he's like, yeah, 1 or 0, black, white, good, evil. That's me, man. That's where I'm at. I'm a 0 with a slash through it. And I'm just like, wow, this is classic Charlie. But I loaned those to somebody that was taking a college class in criminology. All my letters, I loaned my whole collection, and I never got them back. And, that was just fine.
Oh, man.
So,
yeah. And like Gemma was saying, like the juju in that painting, what he did with his hands, like as he's painting, he's putting that energy or whatnot into that painting. So who knows what that carried around. So I'm glad you got rid of it.
They even conjectured that some of his paintings were like that hid things about his crimes in there or slyly referenced his crimes and things. So yeah, he was thinking about his victims when he was doing all that stuff. So yeah, don't need the kind of tulpa that might generate.
Yeah, it kind of makes me wonder, like, maybe he did paint something in there and then paint over it or whatnot, like covering up the crime.
Never know.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good idea. I didn't even think to go there, but you don't know, you don't never know what's in someone else's mind. I'm also a voluntary shut-in. I don't go out really ever. I go maybe to visit my sister once a month. I don't go to the grocery store. I just don't like going out. So Steve and I get along really well because he doesn't either. So he totally gets it. Even though he's all the way across the country, it's like we're right next to each other because we're always talking. We're always doing something, planning something.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, I'm the same. I go out once a month. I go out and pay my rent. And the only reason I do that, my landlady's old-fashioned. She's like in her 70s. And she likes cash. But if I can ever get her to step forward into the 21st century and take Venmo or PayPal or something like that, I would never have to leave the house because I've discovered the joys of Instacart, have my groceries delivered. I've got Postmates that'll deliver fast food, and they also hit the drugstores and stuff like that. So, and of course Amazon, I have absolutely killed Amazon. this since last year. I've had so many things delivered here, so there's no reason to go out. Now I do get out in the yard. I don't mind going outside, but I don't like to go out in public or where there's people or anything like that. I don't
Mm-hmm.
like crowds, and a lot of that is being an empath. I pick up stuff from
I
everybody.
think so.
I can walk through a
Yeah.
restaurant. I can tell you what couple are fighting, what couple are in love. Same with a hospital or a nursing home. Nursing homes are the worst. I've walked into
Yeah.
nursing homes before, and they don't even realize they're doing it, but
Yeah.
half the people in there are reaching out to you mentally and pulling that energy off of you. It's they're almost like, now there are people that are energy vampires that, in a negative connotation, but like the sick and the elderly, they don't even realize they're doing it. But unless
They're
I'm
like
prepared,
unintentionally
yeah,
vampiric.
if unless
Oh,
I'm prepared and have my guard up and have certain crystals and things that I like to have with me, I won't go in a place like that.
Yeah, and they're also feeding grounds for dark energies and entities.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
perfect place for them to go and feed. I hate it.
When my
I
daughter
was.
was born, she was jaundiced and had to go under the ultraviolet lamp, so they put her in East Tennessee Children's Hospital in Knoxville for just like overnight or something. And I spent the night there, and ladies, that was the most evil thing I've ever felt. There was a presence around that children's hospital. I mean, there's a like a burn ward there, pediatric burn ward and stuff. So in some of those hallways, you could hear kids screaming all night. And there was something in my mind. I just saw it as like a dark cloud over that place, and it was feeding on that energy. And that just, I couldn't have spent another night in there. I don't think.
I was watching something last night, a show that I like to watch. It's like a horror show. It's two sentence horror stories or something. And one of them was about that. It was this woman had went into some kind of coma or something, and she was in the room with another person. So she was completely paralyzed. Like her brain was working, but she couldn't move. She could only move her eyes. And she would see this like, oh my gosh, it was so scary. It was this really scary, like demon-like thing constantly in the middle of the night, creeping with its long, gangly fingers up the her
Mm.
her roommate's bed and getting on top of her roommate and just sucking the life out of this old woman. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's exactly what I feel every time I go into like a hospice or a nursing home. I used to speak at them, or, you know, even when I was little, like going as like, I think in Girl Scouts or something, we would go and visit the old folks home and like do things with the elderly people. And I remember leaving there just like never wanting to ever do that again, even as like, you know, 8, 9 years old. They just didn't mean to. But being a Pisces, being empathic, having some psychic abilities, and being that young, not knowing what to do with all of that really, really affected me. And like, I don't ever go to hospitals unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, I think all of my kids are gifted. I'm gifted. My mother, I don't even know who before her was, but we had the old Mercy Hospital here before they tore it down and rebuilt a new one on Ute land. The Utes donated this land and they built the new hospital on it. I'm like, what's going on there? Even a nursing home there as well. But I took my daughter in there, and I think we were going into the records part of the hospital. And as we're walking through, she keeps like pulling her legs up. You know, I'm carrying her and she keeps pulling her legs up and moving like somebody's trying to grab her or whatever. And I'm like, what's going on? And she said people were reaching out of the walls
Oh wow.
and out of the floor trying to grab her.
Oh my
It's
God.
giving me goosebumps right now. I just shaved yesterday. Now I'm going to have to shave again. And then we walked by this wheelchair, and she's like, Mommy, there's a broken man in that wheelchair. And there was
Broken
nobody in
man.
the wheelchair.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
creepy.
he was broken. Yeah. Ugh. So
That's
yeah, I didn't take them into hospitals unless I had to, but I hate them so
Yeah,
bad.
I was my son Steve and I actually interviewed my 16-year-old on our channel because he's a psychic medium. I've been dealing with just like stuff like just like what you said since he was like 4 years old, maybe even younger. And now he says that he just blocks it out, but I know he's absolutely terrified. You could even hear it in the interview when I listened later on how like scared and uncomfortable he was, even though he said that he wasn't. Because I said to him, like, Damien, if you don't want to do this, and he's like, and I named him Damien of all things, and
Right?
he's like, you know, no, I'm good, but I can definitely hear it in his voice that he is very uncomfortable with it and doesn't know what to do with it, you know. And I think that's why he's kind of a shut-in even at 16. So all of my kids, like you said, I think it's gifted or psychic in some way. Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's so interesting.
I was
Go ahead,
being
Steve.
We're
chided
unhappy
in
being
the
American too, so
I was
you
being
know.
chided in the YouTube chat here, and Jeanette Sanchez was telling me that I need to get outside. And I do go outside. I just don't go where there's people. I like to get out in nature. I like to go for hikes. There's all kinds of mountains and stuff out here that I've gotten to go. Pacific Crest Trail. I've been over on Mount St. Helens. I've been Gifford Pinchot National Forest looking for Bigfoot. I like to get out. I just don't like to get out where there's people, especially crowds. So it did mean that I'm inside the house 24 hours a day. Sometimes I am, but
Just depends on the
not a
day.
total shut in. But yeah, I've been practicing for this pandemic all my life. Just didn't know it.
Yeah, we were walking ourselves down before it was cool and everybody else started doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd go party and I'd be the one sitting out on the front porch reading a Stephen King novel or something, like, why are you out here? Like, why are you going in there?
I know my husband was blown away because my kids range from 5 to 21, but my 5-year-old was in there reading a Stephen King novel, which is The Cell Phone. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that
The
one.
Cell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read
He's
that.
like, what? He's like, what are you reading? And she's like, Stephen King.
That sounds like me at 5.
And,
My kids range from 2 to 21, so.
And Gemma, your youngest one there, he talks about seeing things in the house, the dark man or the black man or whatever he calls him. And
The black man, the bad man, and it's funny because a psychic told us on our show, we had a psychic on, and she had, kind of described this entity, and it turns out in my head that it's an abusive ex of mine who did pass away. And she said they're teasing my son because one minute he'll be laughing and giggling with, man, and the next minute he'll be crying. And she's like, yeah, he's teasing your son. You need to get him out. But I get worried because I smudged my house for the first time. And I told you I have like tons of stuff from, the collecting in my house. And when I smudged my house is when it all started. I have a best friend who died of cancer a couple years ago. He was like 74. And I mean, he was my best friend in the whole world. And I would always call him old man. And my son's one phone, I didn't even know it played this song. I don't know if it even does, but it does. It'll be off and I'll be like, Steve, are you with me? And I'll hear the thing start playing that this old man, he played one. It'll come from the phone. And I don't even know if that's a part of this phone, like what it's supposed to be doing. I never bother. I try to take the phone and like hide it whenever, whenever it's time for bed or something. But
it's just something about those kids' toys that talk when they say stuff they're not supposed to. Or one time when my daughter was little, her toy cell phone started ringing during a thunderstorm, and there were no batteries in it. There was no way it could ring, yet it was ringing. Now, I don't know. It could have been something electric in the air from the storm, but it did that. When I was a kid, we had those talking dolls in the 70s. You pull the string in the back, and it would say, one of 6 or 7 different phrases. I had, I think it was a Herman Munster puppet that would say things, and I would hear it talking like in my room sometimes when I was in another room, like something had pulled the string. And that's the way it worked. It was, centrifugal force. You pull it out with that stored energy, and then the string winding back in is what plays the little record that's in there. So there was no way it could talk unless something pulled the string. So I got rid of that.
They are so creepy. My mentor cat, she died of cancer as well. And she was only, I think, 54 when she passed away, but she had one of those Winnie the Pooh books, and it would just randomly go off. And we even took the batteries out of it and sat there and we're chit-chatting it up and stuff, and it would play different things that it generally wouldn't say. She was also an avid user of the Ouija board, and she had invited me over a couple times, and I was like, no, I'll film it, but I do not want to partake.
Right, yeah.
And Furbies, there's something inherently evil about Furbies, too.
Yeah.
My daughter had a Furby. It had been in the closet for like 2 years. I opened the closet one day, and its eyes flew open, and it said something in Furbish, and I didn't tell her, and she hopes she's not listening now, but it went in the garbage, and I pretended like I didn't know what happened to it.
There have been a couple toys of my kids throughout the years that I call it gone the way of the window because I threw it out the window into the garbage. I don't know where it went, but my son now, my RJ, see, he's smarter. He knows he has like 1,000 toys and he knows every single one. And it's like the minute I throw the toy away, he'll be like, Mama, where's and he says the toy he hasn't played with in 6 months that I just tossed, he suddenly remembers. you know.
Yeah, no, it's funny with her Ouija boards. Like, she said she was in the bath. She never took showers. She always took baths and coated herself in coconut oil. Like, she had baby skin. Like, it was so beautiful. But this drawer, she heard the drawer opening, and she's like, what the hell? And she got out of the bathtub, and the drawer was open, and the Ouija board was poking out.
Oh, my gosh. That's the kind of stuff that happens.
Yeah.
You know?
She's like, somebody's trying to tell me something. And I'm like, yeah, probably so. Get rid of that Ouija board.
Open the portal back up. Growing up, I didn't have anyone like Steve had his granny. Even though my mom is full Native American, she liked horror and true crime, but not really paranormal. She had experiences, but didn't really get into it, like we do. And my dad would call it, artard stuff. He doesn't understand it. He'd be like, stop with that, tard stuff. And, so I didn't talk about it. So growing up, I just tried to pretend like it wasn't happening. But I was just talking about this in Fireside Chat. Like, when you see things and hear things that other people don't see and hear, that's why I don't believe in the parameters for the missing people to be considered part of the missing person phenomenon. Some people, Steve and I don't, but some people will exclude people with mental illness, like right away, if they have any kind of bipolar or schizophrenia and they go missing in the woods under mysterious circumstances, nobody investigates them as possible paranormal happenings. And I think that's really a bad thing, to discount people simply because they have mental illness. I think people, like, not all of them, but some people with schizophrenia or certain mental illnesses, I think they're just operating on a higher vibration, a higher frequency than others.
Closer to the veil or whatever.
Right.
Like, they're more innocent and they can see more.
Well, you think about that, particularly like with severe cases of autism, they may not be able to tell you how much a candy bar is worth, for example, but they can do calculus in their heads. I think if you're up in that level, then you can probably see and hear all kinds of things that us so-called normal people can't. Because a lot of people like that, it's a bad term now, but they used to call them idiot savants, because even though they had a very, very low IQ, apparently, they had these wild talents. They could listen to a piece of music and play it back note for note on the piano, even with the mistakes included, and things like that. So there's something at work there. And I think that's why, if you notice, a lot of the missing people, they're on one end or the other of the spectrum. It'll be somebody with functional autism, or somebody that's a PhD in, some sort of gearhead, rocket head type fission, fusion, something like that.
Like molecular biologist or something, brain surgeon.
Yeah, and these guys are like borderline geniuses. Basically, they're right there at that line. Right. My nephew's son, he's severely autistic. He's got another son that is slightly, but he had this deck of cards and he kept shooting it into the air, and then he'd go and collect them, but he wouldn't collect them by the one closest to him. He'd go and pick them up in a certain order. And so I just kept watching, and I was looking closer and closer as the cards were going out, and he was actually not even looking at it like front up. He was looking at it peripherally and then putting it out into the air and then picking these cards up in order.
Wow.
I mean, to me, that was just mind-blowing.
Yeah, they're doing some kind of research. I recently saw it. I wish I could remember the name of it. I always forget what I'm watching, and I have to start writing it down because I do this all the time. I'm like, I was watching this thing, but I don't know what it was, where they're doing this research on kids in, I think it's England. It's somewhere over in the UK. And what they're doing is they're having these kids walk around with these certain kind of blindfolds on, and they're having them guess what's on the card, or, they're doing these experiments of opening these kids' minds, just regular kids, not, on any kind of spectrum. They might be experimenting with that, but I mean, I'm just talking about kids who have no known mental, things that inhibit them, mental disabilities or whatever you want to call it. Just, regular kids. But these kids come out of nowhere, and after studying like this for a month, walking around with the blindfold on, learning how to concentrate on the card, will 9 times out of 10 tell you, if you're holding up a card this way, they'll tell you what's on it. Or they'll tell you, directions of somewhere that they've never gone before while blindfolded. They'll lead you there even though they've never walked it before. All of these crazy experiments, and I actually I'm going to be doing a video on it because it just blew my mind. And they say kids' minds are so much more open that if you start working on them, for lack of a better term, when they're that young, amazing things can happen in this world if everybody did that.
It's amazing. And as far as true crime goes and missing people and such, like you're saying in this video that I watched you doing earlier, that just because they're kids, people aren't taking them seriously. They're like, oh, it's just their imagination, or oh, it's just this. But there's so many crazy stories that they're coming back with. Like, a lot of adults don't remember what happened, but these kids are just like, you know, like sponges, eating it up and then telling it to people, and then they're not believing them or even punishing them for making up the story.
I was wondering if that's why whatever this is choosing little kids, knowing that the kids won't be believed anyway. Why not pick on the little kid? Its parents not going to believe them. I know we're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, especially out there in the woods, but just in general with like almost vanishings and things like that. Is this thing, whatever it is, or these things, whatever they are, intelligent somehow?
Yeah.
And you're talking about fairies. Somebody told me that fairies and Bigfoot are in league. Have you heard anything about that with the information that people have shared with you? Like they work together? Or I've even heard people say that Bigfoot and AIM are partners as well. But I can see the fairy and Bigfoot thing. You know, the fairy's the brain and the Bigfoot's the brawn. Have you heard anything like that?
I haven't heard that they're in league necessarily, but I'm working on something which, guys, don't go crazy because I'm not sure. I'm just a working theory that a lot of people believe that Bigfoot is a type of fae. Like Flannel Man, I believe, is a fairy.
Yeah.
And I'll let Steve take from there because I'm frozen here, so I want to see what's going on with my computer.
So that's kind of one of my pet theories too. I think it's all together. I think the UFOs, the Bigfoot, the cryptids, it's all some type of fae. Because if you look back throughout history at all the different fae things, especially the Celtic fairy, they had like a fairy faith over there. It was almost a religion for them. And the fairies were known for being pranksters, for being mean, for stealing children, especially some of the ones that needed the human DNA to carry on their bloodline. And I think Bigfoot may be a type of elemental, and to me, the elemental and the fae, they're all just kind of the same thing too. They're earth spirits, and you know, some of them, I mean, of this earth. Some are air, some are water, some fire, and so on. But I think it all overlaps. I can see a lot of it. It's just it interconnects, but you know, a lot of people, they'll gladly sit and talk about UFOs or talk about Bigfoot, and then you bring up the fae, they'll kind of snicker at you, but to me, it's not that far-fetched. If you can believe in any of those, you can believe in all of them. And again, just like the Bigfoot stories, the Fae stories, like I said, they go back to. I know Gemma's pulled some stuff out like the 15 and 1600s and stuff of the Fae coming and taking people away, spiriting them off in the woods, and then they find them maybe months later, and the person thinks they've been gone a few hours, and they've been gone for days and days and days. So. There's something there. And then the other one that gets me is when you talk about children, is when you have children that go missing and then they're found and then they say, oh, a bear cuddled with me and picked berries and fed them to me. And then most people, skeptics will say, oh, well, see, there you go, it's a bear. Nothing to see here. Everybody go home.
Not even thinking about how crazy that's
bears don't do that. I've lived
Bears don't pick berries.
They don't cuddle children either. I lived in the Smokies. I used to have to run bears out of my garbage. And one thing, something else that Gemma found out, she was helping me research my last book. Everybody talks about bear attacks. Well, in the history of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, since its inception in 1934, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, there's been exactly 5 bear attacks in the Smokies, and only one of them was fatal. And so the most dangerous thing actually that you can do in the Great Smoky Mountains is fly over it in a small plane. 5 bear attacks in that time, over 50 plane crashes in the mountains. So don't worry about the bears. Stay out of the Cessnas.
I just want to, I'm sorry to interject.
So interesting.
But I am completely frozen. So if you can still see and hear me, that's great. But just know I can't see the chat. I can't see anything. So as long as you can still see and hear me, I'm good.
Yeah,
but
you're moving
so
on
everyone
this
knows.
in the encoder and on the YouTube channel. I still see you.
Okay, as long as you guys still see me, my computer looks like it's about to like fix it, but just so you guys know, I can't respond to anything in the chat. I can't see it.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you
Yeah.
and see you on the YouTube
Okay,
channel
cool.
and
That's
on
cool.
the encoder software. So
Sorry about that.
Just remember that and don't pick your nose.
I know. They already know I'm a nose picker. I said it last time. The first time we ever came on, I'm like, if I pick my nose, I'm really sorry. So yeah.
That booger had to come out, man.
also, Tessa,
So what is
be
it about
sure.
flying over those Smoky Mountains? Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, be sure and let us know when you need to take a break on the broadcast side, because we do a true crime show on Dizombified's channel every Wednesday, and we're supposed to take a break in the middle, and we'll forget, and it'll be like 5 minutes
Yeah, we
before
just
the
blow
show's
right through.
over. So we'll tear right through a break. Just give us a heads up when you need to take a break or whatever, and we'll know to be quiet here too. But yeah, don't know. A lot of it in the Smokies is just the weather there, and where they get their name from. There is a smoky-like fog that's prevalent in those mountains. It's not found necessarily anywhere else, at least not in the thickness and capacity that
Comes
is
out of
there.
nowhere too.
And I've had that happen. I remember once I'd hiked up to Klingman's Dome, which is the highest point in the Smokies, and I was in the observation tower there, and I could see out over the mountains and valleys and everything, and just within minutes I saw this fog come rolling up the hill, just seemingly of its own volition or whatever. It didn't seem like the wind or anything had any effect on it. It rolls right up and comes up to the bottom of the platform, so all I can see is the fog now, and I had to walk back out of there in that, and it's the old saying, thick as pea soup. That's the way it was. Now I've seen fog like that in London. The London fog is infamous for being thick like that. And in San Francisco, that fog that rolls in off the ocean, even in the summertime, it gets cold and stuff there at night. Mark Twain once wrote the coldest winter I ever spent was summer in San Francisco. But
Right.
there's something about that fog there in the Smokies that it just, and this happens just about anywhere, but particularly in the Smokies, when somebody goes missing, inclement weather will roll in, usually within just a couple of hours. Torrential rainfall, fog, something. It just floods. There's all kinds of different things. And it's like it knows, like, okay, we got the person. Now let's change the weather up to make them harder to find.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? It's almost like it's planned.
Yep.
There's something going on.
That's what I'm saying. Is whatever this is, whatever these things are, some of them have to be intelligent. I believe Bigfoot is a lot more intelligent than people give him credit for. I believe my own theory on Bigfoot, and again, I just started researching that kind of thing, but that he's switching dimensions very fast, and that's why he's in and out so fast, where you see him 1 second, and, you know, Steve and I have an ongoing joke that one of our favorite comedians said, it's like, every time you see a picture of Bigfoot, he's blurry, I think Bigfoot is blurry, you know, and that's the joke, but we actually believe that's true, that he is blurry because he's going so quickly through portals in and out of dimensions. Yeah. There are so many I mean, the more I research the woods, that's kind of what I'm always stuck on. Like, even the White-Eyed Kids video, it was like, I couldn't believe that it led me right back to the missing in the woods. I thought it was going to be like the Black-Eyed Kids where they knock on your door. And the Black-Eyed Kids for me are the most creepy supernatural thing they just scare the absolute heck out of me, and I am not scared of really anything. I mean, like I said, I was watching horror movies since I could pretty much crawl. So, but I thought
family
the White-Eyed
tradition,
Kids,
man.
yeah, I thought the White-Eyed Kids were going to be the exact same thing though, and if you do just like kind of a top search, like a cursory search, you will get that they're the same. But if you dig a little bit deeper, and I hope you get to watch that video. I just checked it out and it's playing, so I don't know what might have happened. But
yeah, it could have been the server I was trying to use or whatever.
It could have been, yeah, because I just checked it out on a different thing and it's working, thank goodness. But I found that, like I said, they will approach you or appear right in front of you in the woods and kind of hypnotize you where you can't move. And eventually you remember the encounter, but nobody has come forward yet and told what the encounter was. They stare directly into your eyes with their white eyes. As soon as you look at their white eyes, you're completely stunned. That's it. And you...
Uh-oh.
Okay, now you did freeze that time. I still see you moving and talking in the encoder, but on the...
She's making a kissy face to me. It is so weird.
Now
but it kind of makes me... Yeah.
You were saying something they didn't want you to say. You were about to reveal some
Mm-hmm.
strange truth there. Okay, let's see. I may have
Well,
to.
it's really interesting because a lot of times when people in this area, the Four Corners area, have seen white-eyed things, they're generally skinwalkers. So you'll see, like my brother-in-law, he saw this beautiful blonde woman wearing a white dress on the side of the road, and when she looked at him, he said her eyes were white, like they were basically glowing. So a lot of times, like people say, don't make eye contact with a skinwalker because then, like Gemma was saying, I'm so sad that she's frozen. Hopefully she'll come back soon.
Yeah, I just kicked her out of the
But it
call.
kind of
I'm
like
bringing her
freezes you
back.
up.
Mm-hmm. See if we can get her back
But
in
yeah, they're
here.
kind of paratechnical issues, I'm telling you. And like you said, you're about to say something they don't want you to say.
Yeah, and that happens a lot of times, like especially when I talk about the black-eyed kids. I had an encounter back in the 90s, and just about
Oh
every
shit.
time I talk about that, it's not as bad as it used to be, but when I talk about it, something would happen. The very first time I told it was on the old Art Bell show. Art was sick that night, and Heather Wade, his producer, was on the mic, and she and I are friends apart from the show, and she kind of goaded me into telling it online. And that night after the show was over, I'd gone to bed, and something, it sounded like it came through my front door screaming, went all the way through the house, through the kitchen, out the lanai, and out the back door. But yet, none of my alarms went off, none of my motion detectors or proximity alarms caught nothing on the surveillance cameras. But I heard it. I mean, it was very, very clear. And stuff like that. Somebody else was listening to me tell it on a show, and she said that she had a wax or a glass bowl full of wax fruit on her coffee table, and just as I said something about the black-eyed kid, she said the bowl popped and broke into like a million pieces. So she's like,
Oh my
I'm going to
gosh.
listen to the replay tonight as I pick the shards of glass out of my shag carpet. So,
Right. Man, who still has shag carpet? We got rid of ours.
yeah.
It was the ugliest orange color ever.
Oh,
And
I'm
then I put in
telling you.
that fake laminate flooring, wood flooring.
Okay, it's telling me
You
she's
should.
unavailable.
Oh no. That is so crazy. Man, I wanted to hear what she was saying. But yeah, they say when a skinwalker makes eye contact with you, it basically does the same thing. Like it's like a hypnosis sort of thing. Like you'll freeze up,
Mm-hmm.
and then it cause you to do things like not be able to run or whatever. Um, Pretty interesting. I wonder. I don't know. It just makes me really wonder what they are, because I don't know. I think the black-eyed kids are like demonic. They're so evil.
I
What was your experience with black-eyed kids?
definitely. Well, I was working a contract. I did networking, computer networking, and I'd gotten a contract to wire a comprehensive breast center, get them all off dumb terminals and onto personal PCs at every desk. So I was doing the Cat5 cabling, and I would go in. I had a regular job that I worked during the daytime, so I'd go do this in the evening, and sometimes I'd work late in there. Well, one night I was there till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and when I came out of the building, all the way on the other, and this was in an industrial slash medical area. There were no houses or anything out there. And when I came out, I saw these two kids sitting over on the edge of the parking lot on a like a curbstone. And every time I'd glance over at them, they had gotten up and they were walking toward me. And I didn't actually see them walk, but every time I looked, they were a little closer, a little closer, a little closer. And then finally, when they got under a street light in the parking lot there, I could see that they had black, totally, I mean, pitch black, blacker than black eyes. And they looked like maybe the younger one was like probably 8, 9 years old. The taller one was probably 10, 11, 12, somewhere around in there. Both appeared to be female, wearing just very simple but identical clothing, dark pants and a dark hoodie with a hood up, and just nondescript shoes. And but the taller one was talking to the shorter one. Oh, he'll give us a ride. He'll let us in his car. He won't leave us here. It's cold. It's late. But it wasn't cold. It was in the middle of summertime, and just it was almost like this litany, just over and over and over and over and over, and it really shook me up. Number one, just even if they had just been regular children, I wouldn't like encountering somebody at 2 o'clock in the morning in an empty parking lot. But I felt this fear just start coming over me just in waves, and it's the most intense fear I've ever had, and it felt very evil, very demonic, and that was what I said. I couldn't wait to get there, and I was driving a little Miata at the time, and I'd left the top down and trying to get all my gear in the trunks, like playing Tetris. I finally got that in there, and by that time they're right up by the car on the passenger side, and I was afraid they were going to just get in the car. So I didn't even open the door. I just jumped into the seat, fumbled getting the keys in it. Finally, the engine fired up, and I took off down through the lawn of the place just to get away from him. He jumped the curb, went down through the lawn, and then out into the road. And at the time, I was dating a girl that only lived a couple miles away, and usually when I pulled one of those late night shifts, moonlighting, I would stay at her house because the place that I actually worked during the day wasn't too far away. But when I left there, I didn't even consider that. I went straight to my parents' home, which was in another town, close to half an hour away. And the whole time I'm driving down there, I was going down Pillsbury Parkway there in Knoxville, and I was breaking every speed law I know. I was doing that little car was tuned up, it would fly. I was doing at least 100 miles an hour down through there. But still, I would kept glancing over. Are they in the seat? Are they behind the car? I expected them to, like look in my rearview mirror and they'd be hanging on the back of the car. Or if I looked over to the side, if they weren't in the car, they'd be running along beside it. Just crazy, irrational thoughts like that I knew better and knew couldn't happen. But I don't know. I couldn't explain it. But that's the most scared I've ever been.
Yeah, and I think anything's possible. When I had my experience with an incubus, I did the same thing. Like, as I'm driving to work the next day from Farmington to Colorado, Durango, Colorado, I kept looking in my rearview mirror, like thinking this thing was going to be in my car, like it was going to follow me home. Luckily, I never saw it again, but I mean, that thing was so freaky. But I've heard stories of black-eyed kids where people do get in their vehicles, and like you said, your girlfriend was only a couple miles away from where you were working. This guy that I read his story about black-eyed kids said he saw them so many different times in so many different places. Like, everywhere he went, they'd show up. Like, how could they even do that? They're not in a car. They're kids on foot. And I think, taking the form of children, people want to help them, or people feel like they need to let them in to use the phone or whatever they're asking for. I think they have to have that permission. It's kind of like vampiric, where you have to invite the vampire in. It's very strange. Well, on that note, let's go to our first music break. That way we can try to get Miss Gemma back on. On this break, we have Mr. Burt Casey with Mr. Cellman. We have Tamara Bubble with Out the Mud, Cute Panties, as well as Laundry. And then we have Mr. Roy Washington, who is our musical host and has given us our music that we can play on our breaks instead of commercials. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
Okay, I guess we're doing this. It's my phone, though.
Okay.
Oh.
Well, I tried both, and the other one just said you weren't available. Do you want me to try it?
That's all right. Right here.
We're on a break now. Do you want me to call your other...
I'm so sorry that happened. I have all brand new stuff.
It was because of the black-eyed kids, I'm telling you.
Did he tell you? I couldn't hear it. Every time we mention the BEK, something breaks.
That's happened on... I've had my computer lock up before. I've had all kinds of things happen whenever we mention the black-eyed kids.
Our whole stream shut down for like 20 minutes last time.
Let's see. I've got to go change.
I look like I'm ready to choke somebody. Ready
Bella goes to there reaching for the... Let's see if I can get you back in here.
All right, let me open the Skype. That would probably help. Hold on.
Yeah, like saying it. I want you to say what you were about to say.
Yeah, I was saying how everything leads me back to the missing in the woods.
Let's see, you're on camera.
Okay, wait, I got to join call right here. This is probably it.
I guess this one. Yep, there you are.
Ah!
Yeah, mute your phone.
Yeah, hold on.
I like that sound, though.
I didn't even know that was me. I was ready to blame Steve.
Yeah, she's echoing like she's at the bottom of a well. We'll get you out, Gemma. Just hold on.
I'm so sorry. It's so bad.
You're okay.
I didn't even realize. I like finished my whole sentence and then I'm like, wait a minute, I cannot hear anything.
Where is
see.
everybody? Did I say something
I
wrong?
can,
I know. I'm like, they hung up on
all we
me.
can see is the top of your head there, Jim. Let's see if we can.
Yeah, that's weird because I'm sitting in the exact same spot.
Let's see.
No, but I was saying the wide-eyed kids remind me a lot of stories that I've heard about
Yeah.
skinwalkers. Like my brother-in-law, when he saw one on the side of the road, he said she had white eyes. There's no,
Yeah,
iris or people or anything.
Tessa, real
it's
quick, how
it's
long's our break? I need to step out for just a minute.
It's 15 minutes and some odd seconds, so
Okay. Well,
yeah, you got
the
time.
chat can still hear us. I'm going to step away and I'll be back when we start the show back. I'll be back before that, but I've been drinking a lot of coffee, so I'll leave it to your imagination. But I'll be back shortly. And in the meantime, enjoy Two Gemmas.
no. What I was saying is how
I have to make
everything.
up for the time you were gone.
I can hear two music. I hear an echo though. Um,
Yeah, headphones unplugged for a second. Go ahead.
Everything just leads me back to that. So people were saying that they think the white-eyed kids like rule the black-eyed kids somehow. But I think
Mm.
the white-eyed kids, I don't think that's true. I think they are ruling over pretty much. I think they might have like dominion over what's going on in the woods because, like I said, everything is leading me back to them. Everything's leading me back to the missing in the woods. And when, the girl woke up out of her trance and was about to start eating berries, but she didn't remember how she got there till like a month later. She remembered she had had this weird encounter. It's the whole phenomenon is so weird. That first video, part one, the basics, that's like nothing compared to what I've found. It's insane. Out of something that I
Yeah,
honestly thought was just going to be like a stupid creepy pasta that wasn't going to go anywhere, it actually is a real thing that's happening. I'm
and it's
wondering.
insane. Like she was still holding those blueberries, and people are like, "Well, her dad told her there's berries that look like that." Which, when I was little, and I was growing up in Arkansas, I actually picked this little bush, and it had little green berries on it, and I ate it, and then I showed my mom, like, "Check out these yummy berries I found," and that's the first time she ever stuck her finger down my throat. Like, I guess they were
Oh,
poisonous. So they're saying it's because this girl thought they were poisonous, so she just carried them till she could show them to her dad and be like, "Are these okay to eat?" Like, I don't see that happening. It has to be like
something
you
where
said.
there fairies involved that didn't want her to. I mean, the fairies take those very seriously. Mushroom circles, they belong to the fae. Those are like when you step into one of those, you're stepping into a portal whether you realize it or not. It's all starting to come together and like not come together like I can understand it better, but it's all starting to like connect. Why are we suddenly, besides the internet? The internet makes everything more accessible.
Hmm.
Why are we suddenly everyone seeing Glimmerman all of a sudden? I saw one at 3 o'clock in the afternoon in the park next door to my house. Why?
And what is that, Glimmerman?
That's the predator entity that's in the woods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like white-eyed kids all of a sudden now. Why are they all showing themselves all of a sudden? Do you know what I
I don't know.
mean?
It seems like for me, the last 2 years, since 2 years ago Halloween, like things have just amped up. Like I saw more spirits that night than I had throughout my whole life. Like they were everywhere, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yep.
And it was just crazy because I don't know, are we almost at the end? Is this why the veil is so thin? And then this lady I had on last weekend, she's actually a demonologist, but she doesn't call herself that. But she's like, oh no, this has been going on since 2013 or 2014 or something like that. But I realized that 2 years ago, Halloween night, that things are like getting so active, whether it's
Yep.
paranormal, like ghost stuff, or alien and UFO stuff, like things are just amping up. And I don't know what it is. It's pretty intriguing because I love that stuff. But at the same time, it makes me wonder, like, what's happening? What's going on?
Something definitely, I 100% agree with you. Something is definitely going on. I don't know if we're ever going to get to the bottom of it until it actually happens. I have this
Mhm.
like cross in myself because I'm a Christian and I'm very devout. Before COVID, I did a lot with my church and I do written devotionals every single morning, no matter what. But then the part of me that's psychic that can, communicate with spirit and read tarot intuitively and all that kind of stuff, there's like this constant, I just don't know. Like sometimes like people will be like, oh, you can't be both. But you know what? I am. And I am for a
Yeah.
reason. I am for a reason. I've denied it my entire life. I'm 38 years old and I just embraced it. And I'm
Mhm.
watching my son do the same thing at 16. And I'm like, Damien, like, even if you don't want to help people with it, if you decide that you don't want to, make a life out of it, you can't just not acknowledge it, because I feel like he's going to drive himself crazy. I got into
Yeah.
drugs to escape it. I became a drug addict
Yeah.
at 30 to escape it, because I just couldn't, like I said, when you're seeing and hearing things that other people aren't, and it's coming from spirit, and if people are going to call you crazy, what do you do when you have nobody else to talk to? And that's why I love this community so much too, because I can come on and say, hey, I saw this, this, and this last night, and it really freaked me out. And there will be at least one other person, usually it's Steve, who will be like, oh, I've had that happen to me before. This is what it might be. Instead of just laying under my covers, like, what the hell is going on, trying to escape into, drugs or alcohol or whatever.
Mhm. Right? I know when Dave Scott asked me to do weekends, I was like, let me think about it, because I do have social anxiety and PTSD, and talking in front of people like really freaks me out. But being on the radio, generally they can't see me. Now I'm comfortable with it because I've been doing it for over 3 years now. But I just really love that group, that these people have experienced these things. That's why they're here. And it, to me, is sad, because a lot of times when things like this happen, entities will single you out, and they do want you to feel like you're crazy, like you're losing your mind, when in reality, this is really happening. I was super excited to, well, I stayed in the paranormal closet because as a kid, like for me, it was normal, and I shared it with my friends at school or whatever, and they disowned me, like, she's crazy, don't hang out with her. So I kind of kept this stuff to myself till 2012, when Dylan Redwine, a friend of my daughter's, went missing. And, I just had my son, I'm holding him, I'm thinking about this kid, and I'm like, if I can help these people with my gifts that God bestowed upon me, then I'm going to do it. And I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks anymore. So I call it
Right.
coming out of the paranormal closet.
I know, I was
So,
going to say, I absolutely love that. Do you know, out of my entire life, aside from when I was very little, I think that when I was attacked the most by shadow people and, the enemy and evil was when I was coming out of my addiction. I spent an entire 18 months with no phone in the house, no family, no friends, never had anybody over. I just sat in the house all alone. And my first YouTube video, it's not up anymore, was me like pretty much crying for help, for a
yeah.
friend, for somebody to talk to connect with. I was so just lost. I didn't have my drug anymore. I didn't have anyone to talk to about anything. And I had back in October, I had a mother of a victim who I released a video about his case, and I was new, so I didn't know to reach out to her, but I got all my information from just her on another documentary, and she reached out to me and just like eviscerated me, that I was profiting off of her, I didn't
What?
make any money. She called me
Yeah,
all
that's
kinds
not
of
even what you
names,
were
an
doing.
opportunist. I'm not monetized. I didn't make anything. And she got like another YouTuber with like 450,000 subscribers involved, and she like called me out. So I was ready to quit. And the very next day, I met a woman who, Caleb Smith's mother, I covered his case, that she was like, she's my best friend now. Steve and I advocate for Caleb, her son, all the time. We just had them on our show for 2 hours. We just had her trying to get her a private investigator and stuff. And I advocate for a lot for cases where people were using drugs. So they were just written off. It's obvious murder, but
Yeah.
because they had drugs in their system, they were written off. And that's the kind of people that I'd like to advocate for. But I almost quit. And then the next day I met her. And right before that, I was ready to give up because my husband's like, mocking me what I'm doing, that it's, he's like in his 60s. He doesn't even know what YouTube is, and he just mocks me. And like 2 days later, I met Steve, so, oh,
So
my Mulder.
awesome.
I want to do a show like just me talking about the paranormal. Like I said, that's eventually one of my goals. I want Steve to produce it so he can be there when I want company. But like, yeah, I hope that one day I'm able to do something like that. I think that's really cool.
I'm trying to fix my screen so I can see you guys. It's weird. Everything froze up over here. Hold on.
I got the shirt Steve got me. It says serial killer documentaries and chill.
Nice. Let me click on it. Oh. I kept hearing this like screaming noise coming from my house, and I don't know if you guys saw me like moving my headphones. I'm like, what the hell is that? I have to go check here in a second and
BEK.
see. Right.
Don't mention them again.
No.
They're gonna start. I have all brand new equipment, brand new laptop, brand new mic, brand new everything, and it still shut me down. You know what I always hear when my son and his father aren't here? I'll hear someone coughing coming from downstairs.
Oh.
Like an older person coughing, and I'll go down swearing someone's here and nobody's here. And my neighbors are far away, so it's not a neighbor, it's not anyone outside. There aren't even sidewalks here, so.
That reminds me of my first paranormal experience in this house. Like when we pulled up, I'm like, oh, this is it. This is our home. And my husband's like, really? Because it's a trailer, you know, but the lot is beautiful, like the old blue spruces and stuff. I just felt so connected to it. And I was getting ready for work. I was working at the Ute Casino doing bartending and stuff. And as I was leaving for work that day and walked past my bedroom window, I heard a man coughing in my bedroom. And I'm like, I'm so glad I'm leaving right now. Because that just really freaked me out. And it was John. He used to be an old tenant here, and he died from emphysema. But he's really cool. He's a really cool guy. My kids have seen him a few times. The most recent sighting, he was trying to fix the thermostat because we got rid of the natural gas heating. And he was messing with the thermostat because it was kind of taken apart.
You know, I've had that happen before. I live alone, but I've been outside and heard someone in the house and think, you know, somebody broke in, somebody got in my house, and like get, you know, a weapon and go back in, and nobody's there. And again, I've got surveillance cameras and proximity detectors and all that stuff. Nothing ever goes off, so it happens.
Very interesting. He's a pretty cool, calm guy, but we've got other stuff that comes in and out, and sometimes it's not nice at all.
Yeah, that's what I worry about the most with my son, is those entities that aren't very nice. You know, I don't want them ruining my child. I can't remember from like before I was 4 years old, but my mom will tell me the, you know, weird things that I used to do or imaginary friends I used to talk to, and I worry with him because, like I said, 1 minute, you know, he's laughing with man and joking around and having fun, and the man's nice, and like 5 seconds later I'll go in his room and he's crying because, you know, man pinched him or threw his toy, you know. And my son's a triple moon. A triple Cancer. He's a moon child, so he's Cancer, sun, moon, and rising. He's a Friday the 13th baby, and he's super, super sensitive. So I worry, you know, sensitive psychically and emotionally. So I do worry.
Yeah, my son was supposed to be induced. All my kids have to be induced because they're Klingons and they refuse to leave the womb. But I planned it too late, so I couldn't have him on the 12th, which all my kids are born on the 12th until him, and that broke the cycle. Oh, wow. So instead of being born on Friday the 13th by Dr. Roach, this guy creeped me out. He's like, I'm coming for you, Floyd, at my belly. And I'm like, hell no, you're not. I'm doing this with somebody else. But yeah, he ended up being born on the 14th instead. And then Lily was the 15th.
My son's father's birthday is the 14th, but my toddler, yeah, he's the 13th. And I remember I knew at like 5 p.m. on the 12th I was in labor, and I just like went to Taco Bell, tried to hide it, went to sleep that night. I woke up at 3 a.m. in so much pain. We were like an hour away from the hospital. I woke up in the pain, getting ready to go to the hospital at like 3, and I was like, no, I'm good. I'm gonna go back to sleep. I didn't want him to be born on the 13th, and I wanted him to be born on his dad's birthday. Oh man, we got to the hospital at like 4:15. He was born at 5:01. Like that's how labor I was in. Like I was not going to, I would have had that baby right in this house because I didn't want to have him on the 13th. But now I think it makes him special.
Yeah, it is special. I'll be right back, you guys. I gotta go hit the
Go check on that screaming.
Yeah, I don't want to see black-eyed children. No.
Melissa,
don't let it in.
No, I'm scared. Thanks a lot, Steve.
Melissa, you are famous.
Melissa, Nicole, I think people are brought together like that for a reason. I wasn't even sure if you guys could hear us because we were on break, but like I said, you know, my first video was me just muttering on about needing to connect with people and wanting to start a true crime channel. And, you know, I gained a little more confidence as I went along. But, you know, like I said, I met April the day after I almost quit true crime, and I met Steve right around when I almost quit YouTube. You know, all of this happened for a reason. I had 100, maybe 200 subs when I met Steve, and some people are like, oh, you rode his coattails. I didn't ride his coattails. But he did help me a lot, sure. If I didn't
Yeah,
hook up with
I agreed to
Steve,
mentor you. That was the whole
right,
point. I mean, I
right.
offered. You didn't ask me. I offered to mentor you
I
because of
put
what
in
I
my own
saw.
I put in my own work, you know what I mean? I do the research, I do the work. I don't just go along for the ride. I mean, I know it seems that way because how Steve and I speak to each other and how we do our live streams, it seems kind of effortless, but we spend almost an hour on the phone before those streams discussing what we might want to bring up or how we're feeling that day to kind of get it out. Do we want to do this? Those streams, yeah, they're simple and they're effortless, but we put work in. You know, I've been sitting in front of my computer for 13 straight hours now. I got up to eat cereal and like use the bathroom twice. I don't, you know, I put in days like this on Sundays and Mondays. I was filming 3 videos. I still have to edit. A lot of work goes into YouTube that a lot of people don't realize. And now
Yeah.
that I'm writing for Steve's channel and I wrote the documentary, which I can't wait for that to be out because you guys are going to love it. Fae 4, I'm like, meh. Steve says it's good, so I really hope you guys enjoy it. I didn't like the first 3 either until they came out and I saw how much attention they got. So Sweetly Morbid Bear, I do think Steve and I were meant to be. And at some point, you know, I might end up going closer to where he is. He might end up coming closer to where I am. I would love to meet him for getting him a big old bear
Yeah,
hug.
and
You know, he's my
we've
best
talked
buddy.
about doing some
Welcome back,
on the
and thanks so
road
much for joining us
videos.
tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we are joined by Mr. Steve Stockton and Miss Gemma Jade. Welcome back, you guys, and thanks so much for hanging out with us
Oh,
tonight.
thanks for having us on. I hope we didn't bring the
Yes,
black-eyed
thank
kids into your house there.
No, it was my daughter's dog. I thought my
Oh
oldest
my
daughter had
gosh.
taken him. Yeah, everybody's out at the ranch because they're having a family thing out there for a couple different birthdays, and I was like, what the hell is that? And it was Bean in a crate, so I let him out to go pee real quick. I'm like, hurry up, I gotta go back to the show. I made it back just in time.
To give a
I'm
shout
like
out there,
sticking to my seat,
Melissa
so sorry,
Nicole. It's her birthday today, and because I shouted her out on the channel after midnight last night, she said her kids think she's famous. I said, you are famous.
Melissa Nicole, happy birthday. And happy birthday, too, to our publisher. It's
Yeah.
Jeff's birthday today.
Jeff Knopf is 51, I think, today. Told him he's going to catch up with me if he's not careful.
Right?
I told him that the retrograde, you know, in Gemini, the Mercury in retrograde, he had messaged me about it because he saw me Facebook post and he's like, am I going to have some trouble? So I told him, no, just double and triple check your documents. You might have arguments with family members, especially siblings. It's kind of that time. But he and I are both born again Christians, like I said. So he's like, we'll just do extra prayer. And I'm like, yeah, we got this. Mercury retrograde can't touch us. But at the same time, look, all of my brand new stuff's going down. Like, I totally, like, the day it hit retrograde, I completely got writer's block on I had like 11,000 words. I was on a roll, and now all of a sudden I haven't written anything in a week because I'm just like completely stuck. You know, I'm a Pisces, so I have a lot of distractions, both, you know, psychic distractions, spiritual distractions, emotional distractions, hey kitty distractions, because like I can never focus. So, yeah, and now there's this. So now that I got the Fae 4 out of the way, though, I intend on focusing on the book and some smaller videos for my channel, which everyone's been loving the half-hour paranormal videos. So that's great. Aside from what we're doing with April Arrington for Caleb Smith, for his case, I don't think we're doing much true crime. I do have other cases that are ready to go, but I need a little bit of time on those. The true crime cases, I like to go really deep and get information that nobody else has and kind of check my facts. I always end up putting out information that people will be like, no, well, I saw this somewhere else. And I'm like, listen, I went right to the family. I went right to the source. I went right to this person. I worry about doing things that just came out because even with Caleb's case, I don't usually cover things that just came out. And this happened last January. But when Steve asked me, can you write a script for the channel about this? It just happened. I was absolutely outraged. And I did it. And of course, I went to CNN. I back-checked my sources, 4 to 5 sources, CNN, Fox News, these reputable news sources. And April, his mother, was like, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong, in a very nice way. I mean, she's so sweet. But I was like, wow, really? This stuff is wrong? CNN was wrong?
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, because they're trying to cover up a murder.
If you haven't seen the interview that we did with her a couple Sundays ago,
oh my
or
gosh,
Saturdays ago,
Friday,
whatever it was, go watch that. That was, we almost had church there. There was
something
it was
happened
very
there.
spiritual. Something went on.
I heard about
video.
that. Yeah.
Did you really?
I heard about that. I didn't see it, but I heard about it. Yeah.
That's awesome you heard about it. I'm telling you, it wasn't just us.
Yeah, I had a lot of people.
Yeah, I
come
heard it was
back
in the chat
afterwards
room,
and
like it
say,
was
yeah.
everywhere, not just you guys.
Yeah, because at the end I was like, oh my gosh, I got goosebumps, and April's like, spirit landed on, this chat, and we were like, we didn't want to say it on, the stream because we were worried about, not our regulars, but some people thinking we're getting religious or whatever. But at the end of it, we had people messaging us like, we felt the Holy Spirit, or we felt the Spirit, we felt. Everybody was touched, affected, crying, goosebumps.
I thought I was going to break out into a sermon there. It just, it was that intense.
And we said, it was Caleb letting us know we're on the right path. And whatever you believe, whatever your higher power is, right, something moved that chat. Yeah. And I believe it was Caleb.
I think there's a divine anointing of some sort on that case, and we're going to get it opened back up, and we're going to get some resolution for Miss April, some closure for her. That's such a sad case. She never even got to view the body.
What?
There's so many wrongs in that case, and I'm usually not one to shame law enforcement. I mean, I couldn't do the job that they do, but they just really, really messed up on that case.
The one officer told her son, Caleb, had some mental illness going, and I never got I never said publicly what it is because April hasn't said publicly what the mental illness was, but there was some mental illness. He was 21 years old. He was using some drugs, okay? He was using some narcotics. He was messing around. I know that I experimented when I was that age, and I was lucky enough to come through it and learn from it and be a bigger person. Now, I'm not condoning drug use, but I'm saying things happen. He was 21. So how does he get 5 miles away from his car, laying in a muddy marsh area, completely naked, and his feet are completely clean? The cops look at him and say, oh, he had drugs in his system. This was an accidental overdose. He laid down. He must have laid down, wiped his feet, and passed away. I mean, how does that work?
I don't think so.
One of the police officers said to, I believe it was Caleb's uncle, or maybe to April, but I think Caleb's uncle had said something to the effect of, well, if I went out and looked for every mental case with a drug addiction, I'd never be at my desk when he was still missing. How do you say that?
So disrespectful.
I believe that was said to April, and I can't imagine saying something like that to a mother whose child is missing, let alone found deceased. But yeah, there's a lot in that case that doesn't add up, and they were just more than happy to close the case and be done with it, and say, oh, drug overdose.
But I respect her. She's not giving up.
Resaca, Georgia. It's,
wow.
And
another young lady, the same age almost, went missing 2 days later from the same exact truck stop under pretty similar circumstances, except she was never found. They found her backpack, which had her cash, her debit cards, and her car was left there. I'm sorry, being a recovering addict myself, it's still left over to this day. I know right now that there's 2 pennies in the drawer next to me. I know there's $4 in my wallet. I know what's in my savings. I know every single cent that I have on me. If you're an addict and you're somewhere trying to cop drugs or whatever, you're not going to leave your backpack with all your money in it. And then the cook, who's a known drug dealer, doesn't work there. A week after these 2 go missing, a week or 2 after, he suddenly disappeared. Nobody had a chance to interview him. He's the one who called the police that made her leave her backpack there. He's the one that was working the night that Caleb went missing. Come on, come on.
And they found Kieslin's clothes in the dumpster 2 months after she disappeared.
Because that guy, the cook, the alleged, I'm not saying he was a drug dealer, the alleged drug dealer cook called and said, oh, the clothes are there. Now, the cops had already searched the dumpster. How did the clothes get there? They weren't sitting there the entire 2 months. Girl, there is so much about that case. Steve and I are doing a 12-episode podcast just on Caleb's case with April to help her, because that's just the tip of the iceberg. That case makes, and April is so sweet and kind, and there's not a mean bone in that woman's body, but she's fighting for her son. But I don't think her voice could get loud enough. She needs people to help. We're trying to get someone to do a billboard. We're trying to get her money for a private investigator. We might have a private investigator to work pro bono on the case. We're trying to get her a lawyer, because what happened is messed up. They released his car right to the family without even doing any kind of forensic investigation or search. He did not walk 5 miles naked and lay down in a muddy marsh with clean feet. It just didn't happen. Even if he did overdose, even if he did, how did his body get there? Do you know what I mean?
Did they ever find his clothes?
Nope.
No, never found his clothes.
I think they took his clothes. I don't think there was anything like sexual or whatever done to him, but I think they took his clothes because there could be evidence on them.
Forensic
hair or
DNA,
something.
yeah.
I think he very well could have accidentally overdosed in someone else's car. And somebody needs to be held accountable, somebody needs to be held responsible. I'm not saying that if he accidentally passed away that someone should be charged with murder or anything. I don't believe in that. That's just my personal opinion. But they need to be charged with something. They dumped his body. Mm-hmm. You can't just do that. You can't just...
If nothing else, it's abuse of a corpse, which is,
right.
I think it's just a misdemeanor, but still,
or
it's
covering
something.
up evidence,
Yeah.
Yeah, even if it was an overdose and they try to get rid of them so they wouldn't get in trouble too. Like, people do that kind of stuff all the time, but I think it might be something different, especially two different people in the same time frame. Like, this to me is very odd, and then the guy quits. I wouldn't give up hope just yet, because a lot of times, like here, the Dylan Redwine case, which is what brought me out of the paranormal closet and made me not care what anybody thought anymore. His dad was just recently arrested this last year, finally, but it took them... It was 2012 when Dylan went missing, and then they found his body on parts of his body on Middle Mountain, but his dad had killed him, and it took them forever to arrest him. Like, we were getting so frustrated. And like you said, the police, like, totally messed up from the get-go. It was Thanksgiving weekend, so they're like, oh, everybody just go home. He's just a runaway. They're taking this guy's word for what happened to Dylan when he's the one who actually took his life. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So hopefully they're doing something behind the scenes and they will arrest him shortly. But like you said, the more you get this out there and the more people that are listening to this and are getting infuriated over this, hopefully something will happen.
The thing I noticed too with April that touched me, and I think a lot of people notice this, is that she doesn't only talk about Caleb. April is very concerned for the young woman too. She always says, maybe if they open his case, we'll find something about her. We have to bring her home. She's like, at least I got to bury my son. She's so concerned with the other young woman, because at the end of the day, we don't know what happened there either. And there's, another case that the mother reached out to us, and the police told her, oh, your son's just shacked up with a girl for the weekend, because it was another holiday weekend, Labor Day or something. And, it's 14 years now, I believe, and he's still never been found. He's got a little baby that was born after he disappeared. And I can't even imagine having a 21-year-old son myself, having 4 sons myself, just having a kid, even not having a kid, just being a decent human being. I always refer, to the Jessica Boynton case too, which I covered. She lost, and at the end of all of it, after going through everything she went through, she was in the hospital. She couldn't remember these things. She had massive head injuries. They said that she shot herself while in the closet with her 2 sons in the house. And her husband was a cop, and his grandfather was the sheriff. So anyway, they're all going on his word. When they finally examine her, okay, she lost custody of her kids to her husband for CPS because she was an unfit mother for trying to do allegedly what she did. She didn't even have a gunshot wound. She had blunt force trauma. Do you know they never reopened her case? They still have it that she shot herself. She still has to be supervised by the husband or his family who tried to allegedly try to kill. Somebody hit her in the back of the head with something, then shot a couple bullets and said, oh, she must have shot herself. And the police were like, oh, you're a cop. Let's go with that. And the doctor's like, she doesn't have gunshot wounds, guys. This is blunt force trauma. This is severe. And the cops are like, nope, gunshot wound. And they closed it.
It's just amazing.
That's her life now, this poor woman. That's her life. And he went to jail, but not for anything he did. He went to jail because he lied about having a backpack of her stuff when the police asked him to.
Yeah.
That was in Georgia, too. Yeah.
Jeez.
I mean, yep. Yeah, it's, I get enraged. That's why I'm like moving a little bit more out of true crime into the paranormal. It's a lot easier for me to investigate into the paranormal. Like Steve said to me the one time, and it was so true, Bigfoot's mother is not going to call me angry, that I got something wrong, and it's just hard for me being a Pisces, being empathic. I feel energy through sometimes even what I'm reading through statements, and the true crime, the deep dives. I was doing hour-long videos, 3 parts, an hour each, getting really in there, but it was absolutely draining me. Sometimes you can ask Steve, I would just cry for hours all day for no reason, but it was actually because of the research and the work I was doing. So that's why I'm moving a little bit more towards the paranormal. I'm still going to do true crime, but definitely nowhere near as much as I was, because it was literally killing me.
Yeah, it does. It gets to you like that. That was what I ran into like back in the 80s and 90s, going to these murder cases and things. It gets its hooks in you. Just to quote Nietzsche, when you peer into the abyss also peers into you. And it does. You get into those guys' head, they get into your head, and you start having thoughts and dreams, and because if I was the killer in this case, how would I have done it? And then you realize what you're doing. You're plotting the murders in your head, just for scientific and research purposes. But still, I didn't like having those thoughts rattling around in there. I mean, I never felt like going over the dark side and everything. But a lot of those guys, there's cult of personality around. A lot of them, particularly Manson, Bundy, some of the bigger ones like that. And it's easy for them to run loose once they get in your head. Yeah, Chris Watts, Richard Ramirez.
I didn't even attempt
Those
Chris
guys
Watts.
are just pure evil. Now, we do a show called Real Evil Wednesdays on the Zombified channel. We get into the nitty gritty over there. The first episode, Jimmy couldn't be with me that night, and I took Albert Fish and Dahmer, and everybody's two favorite cannibals there. And who else have we covered? We've covered John List. We've covered Mary Bell, who was a child killer, meaning she was a child who killed. We have people that have killed their families, people that have killed their wives. Did some of the celebrity murders, Robert Blake and Phil Spector and O.J. Simpson. And we cover a lot of gory stuff over there, but to be honest, once a week is about all you can handle of it because we research throughout the week to do those shows, and then when we get ready to do them, it's just like, whew, I'm glad that's over. I can breathe now. I've got that out of my head, but it never really leaves you. I mean, some of the crime scene photos and stuff, it just, those are impressed into your psyche.
Yeah, the Chris Watts case, people always go to is it nature or nurture? Was this person born this way, or was it the way he was raised and listening to his mother? I'm like, totally nurture. Like, man, she had a hand in that. Total sociopathic, narcissistic tendencies. It's insane.
Yeah.
But what blows me away about that case is the paranormal activity in that house. You could see the kids. You can hear.
You see that? You heard that? Yes. That was real too. There's a channel called Live Abuse Free that goes all into Chris Watts. She's some kind of a psychiatrist, or I don't know exactly what she does. It's called Live Abuse Free, and she goes real deep into the psychology, the narcissism running rampant through that family. But girl, when I first heard that giggle come out of that closet, because the girl, the woman said, she said, "Wait, what was that?" And they were like checking to see what it was. I was like,
maybe they stepped on a toy or something.
Happened. Oh my gosh, like that was straight up paranormal activity.
Yeah, and they heard her saying, "This is our home," so on and so forth. There was also a time when somebody said that they saw a woman in the house, so the cops came over and they searched the house. And when the cops went up man, I got goosebumps so bad. When they went up the stairs and there was a cop at the top of the stairs, you see this little girl in looked like a nightgown hugging his leg. And then there was another time, too, where you see a little girl, like, run over and then kind of down the stairs and peeking in between the bars. And you can also see her, the wife in the mirror at one point. They're like, no, that was just the lady that was filming. No, that was her.
And that was a lot of those paranormal things happen in those murder cases like that. Look at the Amityville Horror House. There's photos of a little kid peeking through the banister upstairs when there was absolutely nobody in the house. I mean, the house was totally empty, no furniture or anything in it. And I think there's things that hang around, or things that maybe were already there. But that's one of the most fascinating things to me. It's able to blend two of my passions. Well, I don't have so much of a passion for true crime anymore, but when you have true crime and the paranormal aspect, and a lot of these people, I mean, if you look at Ramirez, he supposedly thought he had made a deal with the devil, and that's how he continued to get away from it. He was very bold, going right into people's homes and stuff.
Yeah, look how he finally got caught, like, so random.
Yeah, people
recognized him. It was a neighborhood. They're like, we're taking him down.
Like a neighborhood support group or something, like, a neighborhood watch.
Same with Dahmer. He was convinced that he was some sort of reincarnation of a Mayan priest or something like that. Some of the skulls that he kept, he was decorating them and carving
How much
into
of
them
that
and
do you
stuff.
think is real, though, and how much of that do you think started after the arrest when he
Yeah,
spoke to his
I don't
lawyer?
know. Maybe that.
Dahmer, I'm not too sure about that. On you really, I mean, for me, I really have to look deeper. Like I try to look into get as much information on the person, the killer's past as I can to see
Mhm.
if maybe I can kind of see if this started after the lawyers got involved. You know what I mean? In a lot of cases, it really didn't. I didn't know until recently, and I've done extensive research pretty much my whole life on Ted Bundy, that Ted Bundy actually never confessed. Those confession tapes, that's him saying, if I had done it, or the person who did it was most likely doing this.
Yeah.
He never confessed until like the very, very end. He finally admitted to his mother he did it. I didn't know that. I thought that, he was proud that he did it and he pled guilty and all this stuff. But no, he
He always
definitely denied
denied.
it to the very, very end. And one more thing on the Chris Watts, I saw one where they were in the garage and it was the wife's voice and she said, I'm with Cece. And
Mm-hmm.
that really, oh my gosh. And the person in the mirror, by the way, was not holding any kind of phone or camera.
No,
That's how I knew that
she
it
was just
was
standing there.
staring. Yep.
Phew.
And
Yeah.
now, oh God, I got chills now.
I know, it's bad. I'm telling you, I gotta shave tomorrow. My hairs are growing back. It's bad. There was one Franco TV. I don't know if you ever watched Frank, but he reminds me a lot of Steve, like just the innocence about him, and he's fun, and he's got so many things going for him. But he goes everywhere. He was driving through Colorado, so he stopped by the house and was using like a FLIR camera and a night vision camera. But I think it was the FLIR. And upstairs where the girls' room was, you could see both the girls. And then you saw the mom walk in, and then, they all hugged, and then it kind of went away. But it was just insane what he picked up there. Like, there's so much activity. So that's what I love about the paranormal as well as true crime, like being a voice for the voiceless, because who else is going to do it? Like, the more people that get
Exactly.
in on it, the better it's going to turn out, I think. Like, people
You
just
gotta
need to
watch
care.
the people though, like that really make me like at one point I was just like ashamed to be a part of the paranormal community, even though I was like this tiny little speck, because the people that try to sensationalize,
Yeah.
they're like not there for any other reason other than to get views. You know what I mean? And that really just absolutely disgusts me. And I was like, what am I doing this for? So that's why like people like April, people like someone else we might actually have coming up on a case that we both covered. The mother reached out, which she may or may not work with us. But that's the kind of things I want to do. I want to get in deep, and I want to get in with the family, and
Yeah.
I don't want to do these cursory investigations. Like people always tell me, my gosh, you have information that I didn't even, couldn't find out there, and I've looked for a year. And that's what I want. I want to give the actual facts of the case, and I want to know that they're facts and they're truth.
And yeah, that's one of the things, like you mentioned there, a voice for the voiceless, advocacy for the victims and their families, because a lot of these people, like I said, once they consider the case closed, it's just swept under the rug and forgotten about. And the one lady that she's talking about that we might work with, she goes back every year, I think it's in the summertime, to the city where her son's death or disappearance happened. They don't know that he's dead. And every year she goes back there and puts posters up and holds a vigil and things. And, she's 12 years in, and she's still holding on to hope. And that, I think that would be just the worst thing. I mean, it's bad enough that any parent has to bury a child, that any parent outlives a child. But for to not have that closure, not to know, is he still alive? Did he run
Yeah.
away?
And not knowing.
Where
And a
where
mother
is
should
he?
never have to investigate the murder or the death of her child by
Right,
herself.
exactly.
Yeah. That's what's really bad, especially like I was saying with the police force up here when Dylan Red went missing Thanksgiving weekend. It's all right, boys. He just ran away. Just go home, enjoy your family. Like you never do that with a 12 or 13-year-old kid. Like you go and you look for him, whether or not he's known as Runaway. I was sitting there like holding out hope, like hopefully because this father had taken his kids before and hidden them. So I'm like, hopefully if he did hide him away, he's safe and he's warm or whatnot. Um, and Vern's like, I hate to tell you, but I'm pretty sure he's dead. And I was like, I don't want to think that. Like, I want to think he's still alive. But yeah, I mean, it's just terrible.
Yeah.
How could a parent do that to their own child?
What
Like,
was
I
that
don't get
one
it.
case we covered, Jim, of the Dulce Alves case?
All of those.
That
Yeah.
one is just, you don't know whether the mother sold her, where the father came and took her, and the mother let it happen, or if somebody, if it was a stranger abduction. And the mom would just, she kind of just nonplussed about the whole thing.
well, she's also she's like 19 with 5 children and 8 months pregnant. But there was something that you had just said that I was saying, oh, Steve and I have a theory on that, where you were talking about something. I'm gonna have to go back to it. It was something that Steve and I were just discussing, and you had kind of touched on it a little bit with what you were just saying about
Hiding them out, or
when you were saying about like the police saying, "Oh yeah, don't worry, just go home." Oh, Steve and I were just talking on one of our live streams the other day about how it might not have even been on live stream, might have just been talking, but you can't just, even if a kid, a minor child, is a runaway, right? Even if they run away, okay? You can't just do that. They're still in danger. You can't be like, oh, they're a runaway. They're 14 years old. They can't be a runaway. That's illegal. You're not allowed to do that. They're like, oh, an endangered missing is different than a runaway situation. No, it shouldn't be. A minor child missing should be a minor child missing. A runaway, I believe, is in almost as much danger as an endangered missing, someone who is abducted. The abducted child is in danger immediately, but so is the runaway, but in a different way. They're at the mercy of the streets, the mercy of these predators. I just cannot stand, it drives me nuts how these police are like, oh, she's just a runaway, or he's just a runaway. I'm sorry, are they under 18? Right, they can't just be a runaway. I couldn't just get up when I was 13 and be like, bye mom, bye dad, I don't want to live here anymore, peace. You can't do that. And the police are just like, yeah, well, that was her choice. Like, you can't do that. That drives me nuts. And if they didn't treat these cases like that, I think these missing wouldn't be missing. They would at the very least be found. You can't just be a runaway minor. But unfortunately, at least here in America, you can, because the police are like, oh, they're just a runaway. It makes me sick. It really makes me angry.
Yeah, there's so many crazy things that he said. Oh, well, he got up, he had cereal, and he was watching Disney. This is a teenager. They don't watch Disney, maybe Nickelodeon or something like that. His fishing pole is gone, so I think he might have walked down to the lake, which was about probably 2 or 3 miles away, walked down to the lake to go fishing. And then later on, when they're looking in the garage, right underneath the four-wheeler is his fishing pole. You know, all his stuff is still there. The friends that he'd been reaching out to go see, because he didn't want to stay with his dad. Like, he had found these pictures of his dad wearing girls' clothing, not women's clothing, but like little girls' panties and stuff, wearing makeup, and then eating feces out of a diaper, so on and so forth. He's like, I don't want to go see my dad. And the judge court ordered him to go. He did not want to go. Like, people need to start listening to kids. Yes, they may be innocent. Yes, they may not know everything in the world, but they know what's good for them and they know what's not. If you don't want to go with your dad and go see him, you shouldn't have to. Had he not been court ordered to go, he would not have died. Like, it was the very same night he arrived there, his dad killed him. And there's even footage on the Walmart camera of him. I think they got into an altercation on the way from the airport to Walmart. He walked in, he's holding his arm. You see this red mark on his arm where his dad obviously grabbed him from the driver's side. You see a red mark on his face where he was hit. You can tell he's been crying, and he's just going into the store hoping and praying that he finds somebody that he knows to help him. Nobody was there to help him, and his dad took him home and killed him that very same night.
I'm just sending April the link. Sorry, I look like I'm on my phone. I'm just sending her the link.
Oh, no worries.
I apologize.
But yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like, you take the murderer's word for it. You allow him to get rid of all this evidence. They still found evidence of he was basically laying on the couch watching TV that night, and his dad came up and bashed his head in. Like, they found blood coming from
what a sicko.
down the couch onto the floor, and then the neighbors even complained of smelling something really bad that he was burning. I mean, there's so many things that added up. How they let it go for like 2 weeks basically before they even started investigating this guy. And the only time he ever paid child support was the very next day.
I hope that he goes to prison and gets a human booster shot from a guy named Molly every single night.
Yeah, he's been in jail here in Durango, and they have him in protective custody. Like, nobody was there to protect Dylan. Why do they protect these people? You know, I guess so he can go to trial or whatever, but still, like, you made your bed, lay in it. Like, you did this.
Say it with me. Our justice system is broken.
Mm-hmm. It is so messed up. So many things have to change. And he's still playing ignorant. Like, a friend of ours had to go to jail, and he was in protective custody as well. And Mark Redwine was like, hey, you remind me of my son, because he looks a lot like his son. He's got the blonde hair and such going on. And have you heard anything about that? Like, have they found him? He's been missing for so long. Like, he knows all the answers. He's just still playing stupid. Like, we're not on to you already. I don't know. It just blows my mind. But luckily, you know, COVID's getting better, so he's finally going to go to trial here pretty soon.
Yeah. Well, I'll pray for that. And I got to check that case out. I definitely remember the last name. That's a very specific, like, non-common last name. But I can't say that I remember the case, but I'm definitely going to check it out.
Yeah, it's very intriguing. You know, I'm very sad about it. It was a friend of my daughter's. That's what really interested me. Like, her friend is missing, and then I just had my son, and I'm like, if my son was missing, I'd want somebody to help me, and that's what brought me out of the paranormal closet. You know, I wanted to help this mom. I just could not imagine my kid being missing and nobody doing anything, you know. But our community is pretty cool. Everybody really came together on that. Put a fire under law enforcement's butt. But I can't believe all the stuff they get away with, like, as far as not doing your job.
Exactly. And I think it makes law enforcement officers who do their jobs and who really do care. You see a lot who really do, you know, even in the other case, and I don't want to say the name of it just yet because the mom hasn't agreed to work with us, but she even said, yes, they messed up a lot in the beginning, saying my son ran off. She said, but here's the thing. I'm not into law enforcement blaming. She said they've since come clean and said, hey, we messed up. That was 14 years ago, but I'm here now and I'm going to help you. And she said, I don't want to. She had another podcaster, the only podcast she ever did on the case because of this reason, who kind of edited things together to make it sound like she was bashing the police. And when she had asked him to please fix that because it was going to cause her problems with the new detective, she thought, he was like, no, I'm good. And, you know, then she didn't trust me and Steve. So we've been kind of trying to earn her trust to, you know, let her know that we're here to help if she wants our help. You know, if she doesn't, that's fine. We're still here if she needs to lean on somebody. But we tried to show her, like, not like, hey, look at us, how great we are, but just like, hey, this is the work we're doing with Caleb and April, and we just want to help you. But I feel bad because there are officers out there that are like, okay, that guy messed up, but, you know, like the Alfred pleas. Like, yeah, people have to admit that the state had enough evidence against them, like the West Memphis 3, so that they can't sue. Instead of the police coming out and saying, hey, we had some overzealous cops that really just wanted to solve this. We messed up. You know, sorry isn't good enough, but it's all we have. You know, we're sorry. Instead, there are still people to this day, even after watching all 3 episodes of Paradise Lost, it's a new documentary on it, and it shows exactly all the wounds. I mean, it goes in depth on how they did not do it. There's still cops that are like, I know they did it. No, they didn't do it. You just don't want to admit you were wrong.
Didn't they just recently release one of those guys?
Yes, they released all of them, and it was because of, in part, this thing on Netflix. It's called Paradise Lost. It's a 3-part documentary, and they go through the crime, the trial, and the, you know, after effects of them getting out on the Alfred plea. But that was just, they can't sue. Damien Eccles spent how many years? 17 or 21, some crazy amount of time on death row.
Took his life
in solitary, all because he liked to wear black, and he can't even sue them for any kind of monetary compensation. He had to choose between getting out of prison or being able to sue. And let me tell you something, the West Memphis 3, that's another thing. The West Memphis 3 should be those 3 little babies who were murdered and killed. The West Memphis 3, the focus shouldn't be so much on the people who everyone thought did it. The West Memphis 3 should be those 3 little baby boys who lost their lives that day because they wanted to ride their bike. That should be the 3. I could name
There's 6 kids that lost their lives over that.
Exactly. I can name the suspects, but I can't tell you all 3 of the little boys' names. I can name a lot of Ted Bundy's victims, but most people can't name his victims. But they know about Ted Bundy. Do you know what I mean? Same with Son of Sam.
Yeah.
Most people can't name the victims, and it's unfortunate, but that's
another thing that needs to change. And they've been trying to do that recently with shootings and such, like, instead of naming the person that did it, let's name the victims. Because they're the ones that really count, and we don't want to magnify this person that did this horrible thing, because there are people out there that are messed up that are like, hey, I want to be big like that too, and then they'll do their own stupid stuff.
Look at all the attention they're getting. You know what I mean? And then there are people like that girl, that woman, Barbara Spencer, who at 17 years old shot out of her window at school children. And when they asked her why she did it, she said, "I hate Mondays." But she's like in her 60s now. And, you know, she was abused and she had a lot of problems. She's been doing all kinds of things in prison. And they won't grant her parole because she said, "I hate Mondays. This livened up my day." She was 17 years old, abused, neglected girl who did a horrible thing. Yes, she killed people. But then they're letting other people go who, do you know what I mean? I understand what you're saying when you're like, why do they protect him? That's kind of where I was going with that. It's like, it's so broken, but is there another way? And I don't know if I'll see another way where it isn't broken in my lifetime. I hope my grandkids will.
Right. And I don't think defunding the police is where it's at. I think they just need to do different training. They need to do things so much differently. There's got to be a protocol. And even when it's police officers that are committing these crimes, there is a certain extent of backing up your brother or whatnot. But if you've done wrong, you've done wrong. It doesn't matter if you're a man in blue or somebody else. Like, you should still pay for your crime.
A friend of mine was at, and I'm going to be honest, when I used to use, this guy was one of my dealers. But he was a really nice guy. Otherwise, he took care of his family, and, you know, he was a friend to me. And I saw him every day. You know, we'd have coffee. It wasn't just that. He was just a nice guy. You knew he was married. He had kids. He was a friendly guy. And I remember he had this bright, bright yellow car, and we would call it the Bumblebee because we would tell him you could see that car from space. You know, you're like a freaking transformer doing this dirt out here, and we could see you from space. So anyway, I'm watching the news. I'm in the hospital having my son, and I'm watching the news, and it says it turned out what happened to him was he went to Dorney Park with his fiance and her kids for her kid's birthday. And I guess he was using a little bit, but he also must have had some kind of snap or mental health emergency because this particular drug we use does not cause people to act like this. And it was the only drug that was in his system. So he jumped the fence at Dorney Park, and this is a water park in Pennsylvania. I think I don't know where, Whitehaven, I don't know. It's in Pennsylvania close to the Jersey border. And so he goes out and all of a sudden he's like jumping on moving cars and like holding on, took his bare hands and like ripped a windshield out of a car. So obviously he's having a mental health problem, right? A cop pulls up, he jumps on the hood of the cop car, and the cop tells him like, get down. So he starts to walk away, and then he turns back around. Now he's unarmed and he's walking very normally, but he's a big, big guy. This cop is like this 5'7", you know, and my friend Joey was a big guy. And the cop suddenly pulls out his gun, and Joey is going like this, saying, "Don't shoot me." And he gets shot 5 times, twice in the face by the cop.
Oh my God.
And the cop gets away scot-free because Joey had drugs in his system.
I wonder if somebody put like bath salts in his stuff or something. Like, that sounds crazy. And I've seen people that...
What we were thinking, somebody had to have put something in something because he was like insane. But obviously, and by the time the cop got there, there was no threat. He wasn't still, and even so, tase somebody. Okay, tase. You don't shoot to kill in the face. But unfortunately, I guess in America, from what I heard, is cops are taught to shoot to kill, not shoot to injure. They're taught to shoot to kill.
Once in the head and 2 in the chest, or 2 in the chest and 1 in the head.
That's
because
how
they don't want lawsuits.
The video is still on YouTube. The Dorney Park murder.
Sorry.
And you could see him raise his hands and say something like, "Don't do it," or "Don't shoot," or something. And then, of course, it blanks once the cops start shooting, but you can hear the bullets break out. And that's exactly what you just said. I think it was once in the head and then 2 in the chest, but he took like 4 in the chest, or 2 in the face, and 3 in the chest, because he was having a mental health emergency. And the cop was only a cop for like 27 days at that time or something like that. And of course they made it because Joey was Spanish, which I didn't agree with. I think it would have happened either way because the cop was not trained properly to deal with a mental health emergency. I don't know what that training looks like. I'm not a police officer. But apparently if you have a mental health crisis and the cop doesn't know what to do, they just kill you. And he got away with it. He got off scot-free. Oh, he can't be a cop ever again, but...
Oh, well, they don't really get paid that good anyways.
Right, the cop who did that to Sandra Bland, that's the only thing he got. He can't be a cop anymore. Are you kidding me? Do you know that case? The Sandra Bland case?
Yeah.
The guy, you can't be a cop.
She had
Are
like
you joking?
Alzheimer's or something. Like she was
No,
mentally ill.
that's the woman that she pulled over to let the cop pulled her over for not signaling, and he asked her to put her cigarette out. She was an African American. He was a white cop. He said, would you mind putting your cigarette out? She said, I do mind. I'm in my car. And he said, well, now step out of your car. And she said, no. He hit her. He punched her. He did something to her arm, all on camera.
He was trying to whip her out of the car, and she's still in her seatbelt.
Pulled his gun on her, said, I'll light you up, because she wouldn't put her cigarette out. And then she's found hanging in her cell that had no cameras on it. Do I think they murder? I don't know. But what I do know is that traffic stop was a bunch of BS. The cop was an egomaniac. He had like 5 other, he had 5 other times where he had pulled someone over that was racially motivated. And the only thing he got for all that abuse, and this young lady lost her life, was he can't be a cop anymore. Big deal.
That's ridiculous.
I take it personal. That's why I'm kind of moving out of true
crime.
I
saw her get pulled over and everything. I saw that video. I never heard that she had gotten hung in her cell. I can't believe I didn't hear that.
They said
that is insane.
Because she had too much marijuana in her system.
Oh, give me a break.
The independent autopsy done by the family said that she hardly had any marijuana in her system, and even if she did have that much, 2 days later, there was just no way. Now, there have been many investigators who have investigated that said that they don't know what happened, but they don't think that it had anything to do. There was something like 18 deaths in 3 years in that jail of inmates that killed themselves or accidentally died in that one specific jail, and I think it was Texas. So. And they get slaps on the wrist, and I'm not making any kind of statement about law enforcement in general. I'm not. I'm talking about specific cases and specific cops. So I don't want people to think that I don't, people listening to this think that I'm like a cop hater. I don't advocate, one way or the other. I'm just saying.
No, I back them up. Like, I think they're important. I don't think we should defund them. Like, where would we be if we didn't have cops? Like, I would be afraid. Like, I trust and believe in them, but there are certain ones, like, okay, there's some that want to be heroes, and there's some that grew up being bullied that want to get their vengeance. There's different kinds of cops.
April is in the house.
Yeah, there's April. Yeah, somebody wanted to know if I was asleep. No, I was looking at stuff on my phone. I'm sorry.
He's listening to me ramble.
I was just letting him talking. I was looking up some stuff on my phone here. But no, I was sitting here, I'm looking down like this. I guess I did look like, but I was listening.
Yeah. If you were sleeping, I think I would have heard you snoring or something.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
You look like a snorer.
Some logs.
I am. I'm sleep apnea. Another reason I don't sleep.
Steve got some love messages. They're like, you look like a cute little teddy bear who needs a woman's touch, Steve Stockton.
That's after I started showing my face. I thought I'd get less attention, and now I'm getting even more.
I know. Remember when you were on the show and you're like, I don't want to come on camera. And I'm like, come on. And then you sent me that picture that I used on the bed. I'm like, you are so cute. Yeah. Like, yeah, people love you, and they're like, you look exactly how I imagined.
My mom said that.
They're just all falling all over themselves.
It was a big snuggly teddy bear that needs a woman's touch. I know I need some grooming here, but I don't look at myself that much, so I don't
think that's what she's saying.
No, I just thought it was cute because this morning I got this weird message on Facebook, and some guy was like, oh, I would love to date you. And I was like, oh, thanks, but I'm married. And he was like, I just want to die. Block me off your Facebook. I was like, wait, what? Done. And Steve was like, that's nothing. Look at this. And I was like, oh, you're a little teddy bear.
And for those asking, Muller's right here under my chair, like snugged up against the back of my legs. He likes to get down there, and he's either in the front on my feet or in the back, on the back of my legs.
I missed it when you lifted him up because you guys were all frozen to me. So I was just like, oh, he's
yeah, he started freaking out. If I pick him up, he's afraid something's going to happen to him. He's an abductee. He remembers one time he saw a bright light. He woke up and he was missing body parts. So
yeah, his balls were gone.
Yeah. Daddy, they took my berries, but they left my twig. He was already fixed when I got him. I got him from the Pixie Project, which is a no-kill shelter here in Portland. He's just a sweet little thing. Best friend and constant companion, though. And yeah, he's very, very attached. Goes to the bathroom with me.
Mark Lagoria.
He's
Steve
still
reminds
stuck
me
on
of
that Kenny Rogers thing.
I know, but you sang, so look at April, how much you're loved, and how much love Caleb has brought you, and how everybody loves you in all of our streams and everything that we do. People are rooting for you and cheering you on.
We love you, April, and we're spreading the word.
TNT here actually heard about that live stream we did where Caleb was there and where we just had that kind of anointed. She wasn't there, but she said that she had actually heard about it.
People are talking about it that
people
were
are
there
talking
and
about
weren't
it.
there.
We told you. Yeah.
Yeah, they were moved, like you said, spiritually moved.
People are going to have her back because they love Caleb, and they're going to have Caleb's back because they love her. So I'm really glad she came in. That's why I was texting her. She was texting me, and I'm like, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just live right now. We're talking about Caleb.
I'm so glad she's here. And I'm so sorry for your loss, but I'm glad that you have Gemma and you got Steve. Now you got me. Like, there's so many people behind you, and, you know, we're trying to figure this out.
And at some point, we're going to go to Georgia to get some answers. Jim and I have already got some road trips planned. We're going to do like a paranormal on the road thing where we visit locations and stuff. But one thing we're going to do, we're going to go there in that part of Georgia and have some sort of protest, a march, something, a vigil, all the above.
Yeah.
We're going to, if nothing else, I know how to draw a crowd. So we're going to...
I want that billboard.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we did here for Dylan Redwine. Like, we would stand along the side of the road. We had signs. Like, we went out on our own looking. Like, we did so many things to get these people going, and it led to large searches of areas, so on and so forth. I know he was found, but this other girl that's still missing, like, that's really sad and scary. But, yeah, doing these things will put a fire under their butts, and it'll make them do their jobs. I don't know.
And that's all we want. We want someone to be accountable. She just wants answers. She's not talking about, oh, this person needs to get arrested. This person needs to go to jail. The other mom, too. The other mom said that she told the police numerous times, I don't care what the person did. Give them immunity if they'll just tell me where my son's body is. Yes. You know how, oh, my God, like the pain. So that's what April's kind of saying. Like, I just want to know what happened. April's not all like, you know, somebody needs to go to jail for this. You know, I'm sure she'd love to see justice. I'm sure you'd love to see justice, April. But, you know, answers.
And a lot of times, you know, people are like, I want to know, I want to know. But then once you know, you're like, man, I wish I never knew that. But there is that longing for answers. Like, what happened to my baby? Like, how could this happen? I don't know. Like you said,
I don't think... Having a 21-year-old son, I can't even imagine, you know?
Yeah, I don't think he did this to himself, obviously, or else his feet would not be clean. Like, this is a total cover-up. And it wasn't a very good one at that. It's so sad.
Yeah, it is.
Treat other humans like it's inhumane.
It's in that position of authority, too, is what really makes me angry. Like I said, I'm not anti or pro-cop. I'm just, you know, specific cases. And the specific cases we mentioned, I think it's a real tragedy. Because it does end up having things happen like people wanting to defund the police, which is, to me, in my opinion, insane. You know, that's not the answer, but we've got to do something else different.
If that happens, I'm moving to Canada with all the other Canadians.
I'm taking off to Ireland. I've always wanted to go there. I think that
I'm Irish Cherokee, so yeah, I'll go with you.
Me too. My dad's 100% Irish, and my mom's half Cherokee, half Iroquois.
Oh, my grandma was, her name was Nova Rose O'Brien.
Oh, wow.
O'Brien. I have my dad's shillelagh right here.
All right.
He made this
My last name's Kelly. Straight off the
yeah?
Last name's Kelly. Yep. Traditional spelling, Kelly. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we're sisters. On that note, you guys, we do have to go to our second musical break. On this break, we have Griff with Let Freedom Ring. This song is amazing. We also have Tamara Bubble again with I'm It, Natural Born Winner, Pringles, as well as Prime Example, who Roy Washington, our musical host, is a band member of, with Dancing Machine. If this don't get your body moving, I don't know what will. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this musical break.
How long do we have?
So we have on this break 16 minutes and 26 seconds.
Okay, I'm going to go make sure he brought RJ home because I didn't even hear him come in because I have the AC on. So I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Those of you in the chat, if you'd like to hear the music, you can do that over on Spreaker.com under We Are Paradox Media. You can find it over there.
And I can unplug my headphones, too, while we're all away. That way they can hear on this channel, too.
Okay, as long yeah, that's fine, because we're cleared for, and you said that music has clearances anyway, so just turn it on that way. We will be right back.
Free the Jews. When I say free the Jews, no alarm clock, don't gotta hit the snooze. The world is backwards, I'm so confused. They say freedom of speech, but when you speak your mind, you blow a fuse. Just being honest, common sense and common. It's kind of a product. My freedom, I recently bought it. Now I'm a target. If I do the wrong thing or say the wrong thing, come on, man. Let freedom ring. Yeah. United States become divided states. The world is filled with all kinds of shades. And still, resegregate. Good and separate from the children, that's not okay. We should be free to laugh and play. Now, before you pass away, fight for what's right. I know for everybody to get a piece of the pie. Brainwash, social media, full of lies. Go to work, pay bills, then you die. Need a breakaway, guns, get rid of the AKs. Our ancestors paved way since the slave days, but we still hurting. Carry that burden. Stop playing victim. Beat the system. Love is love. It should be shown. Can't grow unless you leave your comfort zone. This I know. I learned all this from the mentorship. Kids don't know what independent is. Take advantage. Kids go against the grid, you have to, like going to the bathroom, learn the right songs, cause of Matthew, liberty like statue, they call now the present, cause it's a gift, it should be cherished, last name fearless, not hearers, all thanks to my parents, and now, love the last name, every time that I hear it, cause I know what it represents, climb the fence, so now I got such a beautiful thing. Such a wonderful thing. Such a beautiful thing. Such a wonderful thing.
Doing it, running it, barely. I'm a
it, loving it, feeling it, breathing it. Saying it, doing it, running it, Bentley. I'm a natural winner. I'm the one that you invite to meet your parents for dinner. Cause I can take a couple L's, but I'ma bounce right back. Just so you and all your friends can hit the bounce like that. Cause I'm a lover and a fighter and a giver and a pleasure and pain and boss deliver it out. Yeah, I make this look real easy. Everybody hate Chris, but I'ma win like crazy. But I started late on the way to the top and can't stop, so don't push not one button on this elevator. They try to push my buttons to start levitating, rise above it all. I can tell that you fake when you're shaking my hand and the smile on your face shows me even your greeting and meeting and love is hating. I'm actually amazing, but modestly saying I ain't waiting for cosigns or playlists. I ain't nowhere close to my greatness. I don't do all that boasting, just make hits. You won't do all that posting, make it pitch for likes and I ain't make this dope. I can't face it. Seeing it, loving it, feeling it, breathing it. Saying it, doing it, running it, Bentley. I'm a natural winner. I'm the one that you invite to meet your parents for dinner. Cause I can take a couple L's and I'ma bounce right back. Just so you and all your friends can hit the bounce like that. Cause I'm seeing it, loving it, feeling it, breathing it. Saying it, doing it, running it, Bentley. I'm a natural winner. I'm the one that you invite to meet your parents for dinner. Cause I can take a couple L's and I'ma bounce right back. Just so you and all your friends can hit the bounce like that. Cause I'm the one you gon' go when you're alone. I'm the new girl on the block, you gon' show off to your home. I'm telling you now, we gon' vibe with the boo. How you crave another feature like I'm your sweet tooth. All my people wanna see me shine, but I don't pray for you to focus. I don't play with karma. I slide through, gon' be bad timing like, watch out, little homie, watch out. Real popular. Pringles in the can, all the money really got for dance. Pringles in the whip, I be taking them chips like Pringles in the can, all the money really got for dance. Big black baby on the grip, I be taking them chips. Pringles in the can, all the money really got for dance. Pringles in the whip, I be taking them chips like Pringles in the can, all the money really got for dance.
Well, welcome back.
There we go. Probably help if I turn my mic back on. I want to thank everybody in the chat that's subscribed tonight here on the YouTube side. Tessa, if you're interested, we could do this on a regular basis. If you'd like to run the video on KPNL's channel here, I'll produce it for you.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, I've been trying to get my video to work for so long, and I've tried it on this computer, then I've tried doing the video feed over here and just doing the show over here, and I don't know what's going on. Besides, my internet provider probably just really sucks. Because when I go to Phoenix, like, I don't know, I was moving things from Spaced Out Radio's YouTube channel to another one, and I swear to God, I could get like 3 or 4 shows maybe per day. Once I went to Phoenix and was doing the same thing around Christmas time, oh my gosh, I got completed, and I was like, Merry Christmas, your step is done. But yeah, I think I need to find a different internet provider.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, if you want me to produce some shows for you on the video side, we'll do this. I don't have to be on camera. I'll just run it from the background. Because I'm running your audio anyway out on the broadcast side. It's no big deal to run the video too at the same time.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, we'll talk about it.
My prayers have been answered.
We'll come up with a different format for the screen there if you want. This is what I use for campfire stories and fireside chat. So we can rearrange the video blocks there and put whatever you want in there.
Yeah, I think just so long as we have like the title of the show, we are Paradox Media. You can even put KPNL on there or whatnot, and
yeah, that
so
one
that would be
where
on
I've got the big
KPNL, you
KPNL,
said, right?
I can split that into two or whatever. So, in fact, I was going to do that, and I couldn't. I didn't have a We Are Paradox Media symbol that I could get to quick enough. I set all this up at the last minute. I mean, like, right up until we called you, I was still putting it together.
I know, that's what I was doing too. That's why I was like, oh crap, because I forgot to pull up the bio. I always forget something, and then I remember it like right as we're going in. At least I have that minute or whatnot of the intro song to happen. But this chat room, these guys crack me up.
Yeah, that's a lot of our regulars from my 13 Past Midnight channel. A lot of people come in and listen overnight to the ghost stories that I play on there. And then it's people from Missing Persons and Mysteries and from Gemma's channel too. So we got a good mix here. Got a good crowd. And I think the more we do it, the more you would get. I don't know what kind of listens you get on the Spreaker side, but we've had 634 playbacks on here already.
Nice. So that means people are starting basically from the beginning. Can they do that when it's recorded live? I think they can, right?
Yeah, you can back it up and start, and then people will go and watch, the whole thing afterwards too. If you wanted to leave it up to where they could watch it anytime, I mean, you can have it just play live, and then that's the end of it. But even when it's live, you can start the beginning.
That's cool.
So what do we got, like 5 minutes left?
We got 2 minutes and 5 seconds.
Okay, wait for Gemma. Hopefully she didn't fall in. Not sure how tall she is. I'll have to call the waste treatment facility and tell them how much to dip out.
Right?
That should get me if she said that.
I can hear you.
Oh, I'm in trouble now.
She heard that.
She is.
Mothers have supersonic hearing and eyes in the back of their heads.
Oh, I'm telling you, my mom did. She
That
knew
is true.
if I was quiet, she better come and check on me.
That's definitely true.
Steve's being too quiet. Gotta go see what he's up to.
Once I was taking all the handles off her new Revere ware with a screwdriver. Don't know why. It just seemed like a good idea. Another time I'd climbed up, got a chair, and was up on the kitchen counter going through the cabinets. And she came in and wanted to know what I was doing. And I'd heard a phrase at kindergarten that day that I thought was fitting. And it turns out that none of your business was not the right answer. She grabbed me by the arm, and I levitated off the counter and was being paddled in midair by the other hand while I was still in flight there. So, first and last time I tried that one.
Yeah. You never used your neck again.
Nice.
Yeah, I can imagine you as a kid. Huh?
I was saying, I was just reading the chat. They're funny, but yeah, I can imagine Steve like a kid because I think he'd be just like he is now.
Pretty much.
Only smaller.
The beard
With
was
the beard and everything.
Beard, yeah. I was born with a beard and glasses and long hair. Now the long hair is just within the last year. I've had long hair before, but this is the longest it's been in a long time. I haven't cut it in over a year. Beard, that's about 5-6 months worth there.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining us tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Tonight we are joined by Steve Stockton and Miss Gemma Jade. Welcome back, guys, and thanks so much for hanging out with us.
Oh, yeah, pleasure.
Thank you for having us.
I've been stoked about this for weeks. And then, I had brought it up to Steve a couple times. I'm like, if you want to bring Gemma with you, feel free to. Like, it's your show. Do whatever you want to. When you're on my show that night, it's your show.
That's awesome. Thank you.
I think it was this last week. He's like, hey, can you add this stuff to the flyer and stuff? And I was like, yes.
Well, you know what it is? It's late here for me. Like, as Steve knows, I lay down with my son normally between 7:30 and 8 o'clock to try to keep him, he's almost 3, so you got to keep him on that schedule. And what happens is he'll ask me, why aren't you going to sleep, Mommy? Why aren't you going to sleep? So I'll, like, every time he moves, I close my eyes like this. So he thinks I'm sleeping, but then I end up falling asleep. So my bedtime's like 8:30. It's 11:15 right now, 11:13. So he was like, are you going to be able to do that? At first, he told me it was midnight to 3 a.m. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'll do it because I like to have the exposure. And also, this is work, but it's fun for me. And I like hanging out with people in the chat and all that. So I was like, yeah, I would love to do it. And then when he was like, it's 9 to 12, I'm like, well, RJ's going to have to sleep on the couch because I always get him to sleep. And I'm cleaning out the spare room for my office, but I haven't quite done it yet. So I'm in this little corner of my bedroom. And I'm like, well, I can't get him to sleep on the bed right next to me. So I told his dad, I'm like, listen, you're on the big couch. He's on the little couch just till midnight. But apparently I'm mute because it's 11:14 and nobody's even home yet. So not angry at all. Not angry at all. I didn't just spend that entire break in the bathroom calling people and threatening them.
I believe you. I will take your word for it.
Not going to end up on Snapped. Not gonna. It's Sunday night, though. He spends, his father works, a lot of hours, and that's the main reason I'm always late for everything is not me. It's him not getting home in time. But on Sundays, he takes the day. No matter what he's doing, the baby's with him all day long. So I do ask him not to come home this late, but at the same time, he's spending time with him. So I try to be mellow and chill when I can be. So we'll see how that works out. If you guys hear anyone screaming, just remind me to mute my mic.
Okay.
No evidence, guys. I'm only here to establish an alibi. I actually saw a shirt that says that I wanted to get. It was like, one said I made it awkward. And I'm like, that's totally mine. And then there was another one that said, I'm just here to establish an alibi. And I was like, I must have this shirt. Great. I got my mom a shirt for Mother's Day that said, they call me grandma because partner in crime would make me sound like a bad influence. She sent me a picture wearing it. She was like, oh, I wore this today. And like 3 people asked me. She was so proud of that shirt. And I'm like, so my mom. If she only knew I got my dad the same exact one. They're divorced, so. Okay. I got the text I was waiting for. We're all good.
Awesome. Alrighty, so what else would you guys like to talk about as far as true crime? Are there some other cases that you've been following that you wanted to share, or where do you guys want to go from here? Like, there's so many cool things we can talk about.
Yeah, I gave Steve a list. I'm like, we have to make sure we talk about Caleb, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize April was going to be with us, but I'm really... Oh, I'm sorry, I got distracted. April goes, I have to say, Gemma, that's a super cool mic. Thank you. Steve brought it for me as a gift of, like, have some equipment, which is really cool, and I love it. It's super sexy. It's old-fashioned, too. It, like, has the old-fashioned look, but it's brand new. So, anyway, there was this case that happened in 2018 that I was kind of aware of, like, on my periphery, but I never really got too far into it, like, to investigate it. But last night, I was just looking for something new to watch on, I think it was Netflix, and a documentary came up called Broken Heart or something like that, and it was spelled H-A-R-T. And it was about this lesbian couple. They were married, Jen and Sarah. And from what everyone said, Jen was the more dominant of the two. She was allegedly very manipulative, and, she always just got her way. She would stop at nothing to get her way. So anyway, these two women... They were pillars of their community. I believe Sarah was some kind of teacher. I'm not really sure. But they adopted 6 African-American children. 3 were siblings already. They got them out of foster care. They all this community activism kind of stuff. There was a picture of the one kid giving out free hugs at some kind of Bernie Sanders rally. And, they were just like really, really good people. If you're going to sneeze, God bless you. That looked like a sneeze. So they were like really good people, and all of a sudden they the lady Jen drove the entire family off a cliff in California, and people were like, what the heck goes on? You know what case I'm talking about, maybe. But it turns out that Jen was using food as punishment, not feeding the kids. They were sneaking out the window and going to the neighbor's house in the middle of the night begging for food. She would dress them up in like tribal gear and make them do, you know, African dances. And it was like, the whole thing was like, it made me uncomfortable from the beginning because it looked kind of racist. Like, look what we have these African American babies doing, you know, aren't we so great? That's just the vibe I got off. Everyone was like, oh, look how cute that is. I didn't think it was cute. I thought it was a little weird. So anyway, it turns out, yeah, they had moved from state to state to state. They started off in Minnesota, and CPS, Child Protective Services, whatever you call them in your state, we call them DIFAS here. But they kept investigating, and every time they would investigate, like the little girl they'd bend her over the bathtub and beat her, so she'd have bruises all over her stomach, and she would tell her teacher that her mommy gave her an owie. The one mother, Sarah, the one who was known to actually be a good person, and she ended up taking the rap for that and pleading guilty to child abuse. So anyway, she does some jail time. I think it was 8 months. And everyone kind of knew that it was her, allegedly. And so anyway, it turns out like for the 5th time, I guess back in 2018, and I don't know if it's still true today, but I think it is, because I know somebody that had a case in Pennsylvania and then years later had a case in New Jersey, and they didn't know, the New Jersey people didn't know about the Pennsylvania case. Like, they knew a little bit about it, but all the information they got from the mother that they were investigating, which was like nothing. So they don't go, and I have a whole other theory on CPS. Like, I don't agree with them, but so they were investigated so many times they moved, and from state to state, they didn't know. So every time a new state would get involved, they would have no idea about the other state. Even when they went deep and investigated the family, there was no like system for them to be able to put these names in and see that they had been investigated here, there. So there was a card from CPS on their door, and the one woman didn't show up to work, and she never didn't show up to work. So they called for a welfare check, and the police were like, well, we're not going back out to that address because we were already out there today, because CPS called us and said that they were already there, and they left a card on the door that they were starving the children, essentially. The neighbors had called CPS. So anyway, in order to escape CPS, Jen decided that it would be better to drive all of these children, ranging in age, I think 16, from 3 to 16, off a cliff. The kids might have been different ages, and then I'm not sure I have that right. It might be from like 7 to like 17. I know they're all minors, and some of them are very young. And instead of, paying the piper, she committed a M-word and S-word. I don't want to say those words because I don't know if we're allowed to.
Yeah,
I know
you can
YouTube.
on this channel.
I can. Yeah. So she committed a murder-suicide.
This is an adult channel, so you can say and do whatever you please.
And it was really sad. They found the 2 mothers, and they found 3 of the children. I did not get through the entire documentary. Like I said, I remember it kind of going on, but at the time I was going through my own stuff. And I want to watch the end. I mean, I know how it turns out already, but I think it's horrific, and it just really struck me. And I told Steve, I'm like, this is the next case that I have to cover.
And some of it was just so awful. The one that was driving, the wheel woman there, had drank a bunch of alcohol. She wasn't normally a drinker. The other mommy had taken, I think it was 42 doses of Benadryl, and they'd also dosed each of the kids with Benadryl. So basically, everybody was out of it, but still, it's just the thought of a murder-suicide pact like that.
Yeah, I mean, turn on the gas stove or whatever. Like, don't even do that stuff. But I mean, I could think of so many different other ways that would be less horrific.
Why it had to be
like
so
car accidents
spectacular
scare the
like
crap
that.
out of me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it made the point they were trying to make, but still, Jesus.
Did they end up finding all the kids? I know there was one that was still missing.
I don't believe they ended up finding. Like I said, I didn't get to the end of the documentary, but from what I saw when I fell asleep, it was they only had found the parents and the 2 kids, and they didn't even really get started into the investigation yet. So I'm not sure if they ever ended up finding them. I didn't really Google it because I wanted to see. like I wanted to watch it again. So I'm not sure, but I'm gonna do a video about it definitely. I think those kids, stories, they have the right to have their stories heard. And another YouTuber did a really great in-depth video on it a while ago, which is how it first came to me. And she did a lot of digging into the woman Jen's background, and wow, that's all I can say. I don't know how this woman adopted 6 kids. I don't remember details, but I just remember thinking to myself, like, really, like I don't get it.
And I did find the answer here. Devontae, the 15-year-old, remains are never found, but he is presumed
Is that
dead.
the oldest?
No, actually, their ages were 19, 16, 2 14-year-olds, and a 12-year-old, plus they were all found, and then the 15-year-old, who was, I guess, right in the middle of that, his was never found, but he is presumed dead.
Mm. Yeah, I'm wondering if they killed him before this accident even happened.
Or maybe ran away and didn't look back.
Yeah.
They found out what was going on or got a hint of it or something. But one of the ladies had Googled how much Benadryl does it take to kill a 120-pound woman, and also Google stuff like is drowning painless. So it looks like they may have considered other things, but then decided the Benadryl and I think that they drove the car off into the ocean. Isn't that right, Gemma?
Yes.
I don't even know if they made it to the ocean. Did they? I know they went down that cliff, but I don't. Did they make it to the water?
I'm not sure.
I think some of them did. I think that's why some of them weren't found.
And the lady's car had accelerated. The car computer showed that she had accelerated from, I think it was 0 to 90 in a very short distance. So she was moving on when they went off the cliff.
Mm. That is so scary. And there's so many different parents that are like that. There's the ones that seem perfectly happy and in love. They have their kids dressing thing 1, thing 2, all the way up to, I think it was like 12 or 13 kids in this group of people as well, going to Disneyland, doing so many other things. But so many different neighbors in different areas said, they'd get these brand new bikes and then you never saw them riding them. They'd just be sitting beside the house, and every time they saw the kids, they thought they were younger than they were. And they always looked like very malnourished, very tiny and kind of odd if they ever did see them. Generally, they were locked down. But
the family killers, those are a special kind of creepy. And Jim and I have talked about that there's a special circle in hell for those people. Like John List just didn't like the way things were going, so he decided to kill his whole family and start over somewhere. And that's exactly what he did. He got away with it for years until it's either Unsolved Mysteries or one of those type shows did a segment on him, and his neighbors recognized him, his new neighbors. And then, Jim, what was the French guy that we covered, Delongay or something like that?
I can't remember that guy's name. It gets like
it's some kind of real weird French name, but they think he killed his family and disappeared. But then there's been reports that the bodies that he had buried behind the house weren't his family at all, that he was working undercover for the United States government. That one's got a lot of twists and turns. He's supposedly been spotted some places, but they're not sure it was him. So that's one of those, like, unless they catch the guy, for sure, they'll never know exactly what happened. And are you kidding me? There's somebody whose cousin drowned her 2 boys in a bathtub. It happens. Who's the lady, Susan Smith, that drove her kids, locked them in the car, and drove them into a pond, and I think that was in South Carolina. Claimed that she'd been carjacked. And we get into a lot of these on Dishomified when we do the Real Evil show over there. And who else have we covered over there? Would we do Diane Downs?
What about that lady that was LDS, and then she met this guy that was kind of going like a fundamental route, and she ended up not divorcing her husband. I think she killed him, and then she ended up going with this guy. Mallow, yeah.
Lori Daybell.
Yes.
The kids, JJ and Kylie, yep.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't covered.
They finally found their bodies. One was under like a pet statue. They were buried where all the pets were buried.
that case was something that a lot of people asked me to cover for, the true crime that I do. But there was so much to it. And like I said, I don't want to give half the information. It just would take me so long to cover it that I'm going to wait until after all of that's done, after the trial, after the sentencing, after all of that, which COVID has kind of stopped.
Mm-hmm.
So once it's all
well, her
done,
case still goes on. Like, I still get updates about it, and they're doing different
once
things,
it's
different
all
charges.
done, I'm just going to start at the beginning, because I thought it was so funny on, I think it was July 27th or whatever day last year, they thought that, they were going to be transporting to another planet, whatever their ideology was. Two of my favorite true crime YouTubers had a live stream that said, "Teleport your way out of this, Lori." And it was that night that the world was supposed to end. Yeah, John Clance is awesome.
And in the chat we have Miss Jim. So Gemma, meet Miss Jim.
Oh, hello, Miss Jim.
It says it's good to see me in person. Well, thank you. I've been doing this for a few weeks now, and I've kind of gotten used to it. I was hesitant for a long time, and
don't fear the camera.
yeah, and these are the two ladies basically that talked me into it. I went. Now, Tessa, when I was live on video with you, only you could see me. But then shortly thereafter, Gemma talked me into, like, let's just do it.
Yeah, you didn't even come on live on the camera till, like, towards the end of the show. I think you had to warm up to me or something. Then you're like, okay.
Well, you kind of shamed me into it, so.
Well, I'm glad.
April saying, we had a gunman at a park nearby over the weekend, and no one was shot, thankfully, but they did point their gun at people at a park. Cray cray. April, have you considered moving? Like, I know with Caleb's case going on, like, you really can't, but I mean, have you considered me? Oh my gosh, girl.
Colorado's lovely.
Feeling morbid there. People are really losing it. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's pretty,
but there's crazy. Go ahead.
de rigueur, I think, in New Jersey, but I think it's Pam Smith or Ann Palmer. One sent me an email today. There was a shooting overnight in New Jersey in Bridgetown, Bridgeport. Had you heard about that one, Jim? As people at a house party.
I don't watch or listen to the news, and I don't read the newspaper, as per my therapist, and my anxiety's been pretty low since I stopped.
Very stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
I
really
don't watch
is.
the news either. You
again,
know how Portland is.
Being empathic and all that, like, I pick up on it. I just can't. I try not to even read magazines.
So, 12 inches.
So I look for
killed.
funny news.
Yeah.
But now I'm definitely going to look into it and see.
Ann Palmer says it must have been Pam Smith, but it was a house party. 12 shot, 2 killed, I think was
where
we had something like that here in Colorado too last weekend. It was a birthday party, and the ex went, and it was a kid's birthday party, but they like shot all the adults and stuff. Like, it was a crazy ex scenario.
Where I grew up, where I was born and raised, and where I lived up until about almost 4 years ago now, we moved here out of all of it. But in South Paterson, New Jersey, there was a lot of that. You would play it. I remember I would play at night. I'd lay under my covers and play gunshots or fireworks. Like, we're going to guess which one it is today and who's getting shot, on the Clifton border and the Paterson side. And, it was just that kind of area. I don't want to say ghetto or hood, but that's how it would be described. You Google South Paterson, you'll see that it used to be, Silk City. And, the silk used to run through there from here to New York and Pennsylvania. But now it's kind of went a little bit downhill. And I just got so kind of used to it, every day, something else, and then, being in that life that I was in for like 6 years, seeing people die all the time, things like that, like really kind of give me like PTSD. So I don't watch the news and stuff, but because it happened in New Jersey, I definitely will look it up because I like to know. I have relatives all over this state, and I just like to see where things are going on. It was probably like Brick or Bridgeton. If it was Bridgeton City, that's right where Dulce Alves went missing too.
Okay. Yeah, she had said, and she'd put it in the chat earlier during an old time radio stream that we do on here, that she hoped all our Jersey people were okay. So I don't know where everybody lives. I know where you live and I know where Cisco lives, but the other Jersey people, I'm not sure. So I hope none of our folks were in on that in any capacity.
Yeah, Numger said that he heard about that too. 12 people were injured in a house party shooting, and he said, I know where Patterson is. He's Gnome Drew and his Trucking Gnomes, and he has his own YouTube channel. He's a lot of fun. he does a lot of cooking on the road. I call him the trucker. What was it? Never mind. I can't think of the name.
Be a traveling trucker chef.
Yeah.
Oh, look, guys, our black-eyed kid came in and thumbs down. Every single live stream I do,
Wow.
We get one or two
it's me.
thumbs down. And
It's me. Somebody follows me around, and I'm not even like joking. Somebody literally follows me around everywhere I go, and just thumbs down, like, take that, Gemma, I'll destroy your whole career.
Yeah, we've had a
They don't
thumbs down
realize
before
that.
the show even started. Before we come in with one, but you know, that it doesn't bother
They
us.
really- Yeah, like
Make your haters your motivators. I shared something, I think it was last week or the week before, it kind of runs together, but I saw that Steve shared it on your page. And it's serious, like, make your haters your motivators. Had I not had haters or people saying I couldn't do something when I joined the Marine Corps, I would have never made it through that first run. I almost died, I swear
That's
to
what
God.
I was telling Jim. When you get haters, that means you're somebody. You're to the point where
Mhm.
people are either jealous of you and want to be you, or they can't stand the sight of you, but you're getting a reaction. And that's that's part of it.
I guess
Maybe.
I haven't had that because my channel has been so small. So when it all suddenly started coming on, like the absolute just like cruelty and viciousness, I was so blindsided by it. But now I'm getting better because I have way more supporters, and I realize that you guys are right. Like, somebody's noticing me. So whatever, like, it's not going to affect me one way or another. It's not affecting the money I'm making. It's not affecting the book deal I just signed. That's been a lifelong goal since I was a little girl when books were my only friends.
Contract
and I was
for 2 books, by the way.
Yeah, actually, it's 3.
3, okay.
High five.
So
That's
just
awesome.
gotta roll with it and just grow a little bit of a thicker skin. But you guys all help me. I mean, this whole little, we call it our dysfunctional family. You know, they really keep me going, keep me motivated, keep me happy. And I got my
I
little
get called weird and stuff, and I'm like, do you know how long and hard I worked to be this weird? Seriously. Took a lot of work.
I think it comes
Exactly,
natural for
you
you,
know?
Tessa.
Yes, I think so. It must be my genetics.
Exactly, because people also think that YouTube is like something easy. I know when I started, I was watching other YouTubers do true crime and paranormal, and I was like, I could do that so easily. I didn't realize like it's a full-time job. YouTube, just doing YouTube is a full-time job. Filming, editing, uploading, this, that, the other. I had no idea it was going to take up all of my free time, which I'm okay with because I love doing it.
Moderating your comments, plus all the periphery stuff, the tweets, the emails, the Facebook Messenger. I could hire somebody just to answer my email, and that'd be a full-time job for an intern or something.
Right? I know. When you offered me the whole video thing, I was just like, I've been praying for something like this for so long. Like, I've been trying to figure this out for over a year.
Me. And I don't know if you heard that or not, Gemma, but now, going forward, on Saturday and Sunday nights, I'm going to produce the video side of Tessa's show and air it on KPNL YouTube.
I'm so excited.
I won't be in it, but I'll be in the background running it. So she still runs audio on Spreaker, and then she's got video on here until she can get stuff figured out.
What I was telling Tessa, not right now because I have so much I'm doing and I just wouldn't be able to handle it. But I think in a few months, once like the book's out, that's definitely something I want to do. I want to do something of my own, just me on camera. But I want Steve to produce it. So if I need to call him in, he's right there.
He's so amazing.
He knows what he's doing. You know what I mean?
I hope you live forever, Steve. I think you should be like the guy that walks the earth like for eternity.
I thought you were gonna say like
producing
Kane.
stuff. I'm like, is he AI or what? Like,
Kane
does Steve
Kung
ever
Fu.
sleep?
I'm just gonna want to.
No,
I don't that much. I'm lifelong insomniac. I mean, from early childhood, I sleep maybe 2 or 3 hours in any given 24. But I consider it a blessing. I've used it to my advantage. I can literally work around the clock. I don't get tired. Just take a little cat nap. But I've been able to put 2 or 3 lifetimes worth of experiences under my belt for my age. Because I've sat and thought about that before. All the things I've seen and done and places I've lived and jobs I've held and stuff. Like, I got to be like 100 years old. But then I remember, oh, yeah, I never sleep. So, you know. And
makes sense.
Yeah. It works well for me. Now, I can't speak for everybody that has insomnia. I know a lot of people struggle with it, but I thrive on it.
Yeah, I don't struggle with it. Like, I enjoy it. They're like, when do you go to bed? I'm like, maybe 4:30, 5:30,
Yeah, that's
6:30.
me.
Depends
My
on what's going
most
on.
creative times are between midnight and about 5 or 6 a.m. I like to lay
Mhm.
down just as the sun's coming up. I think I'm part vampire. And
I know when the sun starts coming up,
yeah,
I start
it's
putting down the
like I need
curtains
to
and
get in the
going to
bed,
bed.
and then
See,
I'll
not me, like,
sleep for an hour or two, and then I'm right back up and back at it.
I think I would be like that if I didn't have the baby.
Yeah.
That's how I used to be, but now I get up at like 5 to have my coffee because I know he's going to wake up at 6:30 and I need that time to myself. Otherwise, yeah, I used to be that person. I literally had cardboard against all of my windows, and then I spray painted the cardboard black and got blackout curtains in my room. So anytime like it would start, like I'd pull an all-nighter or something and it would start to get light out and you start to hear like that bird, I call it the crank bird, that just like comes out at like 4 a.m. and I didn't want to deal with it being light out, people would just come and chill in my room because you couldn't tell if it was day or night.
Yeah.
Like any time of the day was pitch black and nighttime.
Like being in a casino.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
or like, you know, if I was just having a bad day or whatever I was doing, you know, this was back in my other life. Whatever I was doing, I did not have to deal with the outside world in that room. I definitely bulldozed myself in there, barricaded myself in there, but it was awesome. I know that now, like, I would totally still be the same way, even, you know, sober. But because I have the baby, you know, the minute the sun comes out, he's like, but the sun's awake, mommy. I'm like, it's 5:10. Like, he came down at 5:20 this morning, and I'm like, but I didn't even get to have coffee. He comes down and like kicks me off the couch like, mommy, breakfast cereal and PJ Masks now. I'm like, all right, dude. Luckily he went back to sleep.
Do that, go back to bed.
On my couch. I'm sleeping on a tiny little couch where like my feet are falling asleep because they're hanging off, and this little like 3'4" kid is sleeping on the giant couch. But it's okay.
You not sleep in your bedroom? I used to live in an apartment like that. I never slept in my bedroom. I always slept in the living room.
You know what it is? I fall asleep in bed with the baby, and his father usually like is downstairs wandering because he gets home from work late and he falls asleep on the couch. But in the middle of the night, I'll get up and go downstairs because my medication does keep me up and down all night. Some nights I will be up all night and won't sleep. So if I'm getting up and getting down, up and down, I'll wake him up. So I just cut out the middle time and just go right downstairs to sleep on the couch. That way I don't wake anyone up, and it's just a lot easier that way on me. And then when I get up at 5:30 for my coffee, I don't have to worry about 5 o'clock for my coffee. I don't have to worry about him getting up, and I can actually enjoy my coffee without having to watch PJ Masks or Paw Patrol. Or lately it's been Monsters Inc., which was one of my favorite movies, like animated movies, until recently, because now I have to watch it like 50 times a day.
That's how Aladdin
for our kids.
Was for me with my 21-year-old. Aladdin all the time.
Yep. Well, it's 11:40
show.
p.m. here, actually. It's almost midnight. I'm getting tired.
Hopefully, we'll get you to bed before you turn into a pumpkin.
I've got a podcast appearance that I'm going to record after this. I've got an hour break and then do a thing with Paranoia magazine, I think it is, with Ron Patton, who's Clyde Lewis's producer. But
Nice.
yeah, I did Ghost Stories at midnight, did that overnight, and then this morning, as soon as Ghost Stories ended, I did Old Time Radio, and then when it was time for our show to start, I switched over and did that. Then we had an hour, then we came on here, and yeah, that's a busy day for me.
I really love that Old Time Radio. Like when you sent that to me, and I was listening to it, and it was kind of like flapper music and stuff. Which, I don't know. I've never done a past life regression, but I'm pretty sure that I was alive in the 1920s.
What you're talking about was electro swing
But it's got a new little sweep on it. It's like more like updated flapper music.
Yeah, you're thinking of electro swing set. That's where it's like the 20s jazz and flapper music, but with 2000s beat and drum breaks and things in it. It's a strange genre. Not a lot of people even know about it, but it's a mixture. And somebody else, I have several music shows on here too. I also do a blues show sometimes. And then I didn't do one this week, but on Saturday nights I usually do a show called Ritual Radio where I play Witch House. And there was somebody in the chat like, I didn't think he would even know about that genre. I'm into a lot of things musically. But yeah, on that one I play Witch House, goth, industrial, shoegaze, vaporwave, all these strange fringe genres that most people never heard of, but
I love music. It's like medicine to me. If I was ever stranded on a desert island, I would take music with me.
Someone asked me that, and I was like, I'd take a boat. They're like,
a boat, so I can get back. I'm done with my vacay. Let's go.
Yeah, Yeah, like when I want to leave, I want to leave. But yeah, I need my music too. Music definitely gets me through a lot. I have to watch now because certain music will trigger certain things, but for the most part, I definitely love music. I have to be able to connect with it in order to like it. You know, like I need to be able to relate to it. I'm that person. Like the beat and all that, like, okay, if it's good, it's good. But like for me, it's more about the lyrics. And I know a lot of people are about like the music part of it. Some people about the lyrics part of it. I'm definitely more towards lyrics. Like if I can relate to it, it will be my favorite song.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much I loved music or needed it until I broke myself in boot camp, and I was on a bus going to the medical facility, and the bus driver was so smart. He turned on the music, but he turned it up so low that you had to be really quiet to hear it. So everybody was so silent, and we're just listening to this music and loving it. That's when I realized like my relationship with music and how important it was to me. It was just pretty mind blowing. I don't know.
Yeah, it's when
So
you
good
don't
for you.
have it or can't hear it that you realize how much you miss it.
Yeah. I was just like, damn. Really missed that stuff.
Oh, April, that was Demi Lovato, Dancing with the Devil. She said, I liked your song lyrics you shared the other day, Gemma. I put the lyrics to that on Facebook. I do that a lot. I'll put lyrics, and people are like, oh, wow, you write really well.
I
And I'm
saw
like,
that, and at first I
wish.
was like Demi Lovato, like tee hee tee hee hee. But then I read the lyrics and I thought, okay, that's because that's not somebody I would normally listen to. But the
hmm
lyrics said a lot, really.
Yeah, the lyrics. Yeah, she was talking about how, her addiction almost killed her.
Yeah, she basically did die. My
Yep.
daughter, and it's funny that you guys are talking about her right now because I want to say 16, but now she's 17-year-old, was like, I can't stand Demi Lovato, blah, blah, blah. So back in the day when she first was Demi Lovato and we all knew about her, it was different. But I told my daughter, I was like, she's gone through so much, like, she's overcome her addictions. And for me, like, her music has changed. Like, there's so much
Because
more
it's
meaning
reflecting
behind
that.
it.
Yeah. I think the reason I kind of got turned off to her, number one, I'm much older and it wasn't really my time for that kind of music. But I remember she came
Yeah.
out with this big campaign of like recovery and how she was clean. And I kept saying, like, I don't know, I felt uncomfortable about what she was doing for some reason. And it was because she actually wasn't. And she was on this big recovery campaign, but she was still
Yeah.
using. And
Yeah.
then when she came out with Dancing with the Devil, I just randomly heard it for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I could have written this song. I could have written every lyric in that song. So I have to watch, but music definitely gets me through a lot of tough times.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's really good medicine, and like you said, you related to that.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
used to
reading
be a meth
chat.
addict during my 20s, and I call myself one of the lucky, I think it's 6%, only 6%
Yeah.
of people actually recover from that, and I have family members that are still dealing with it. One of my siblings actually used DMT, and that kind of turned her around where she didn't even care if she did meth again, which is
Wow.
awesome. Like, I wish everybody could do that and have that experience, but for her, that's what it was. So I'm just like, I hope she sticks with it because she has given away so much of her life to that shit.
I never even heard of that, but I know like with heroin, it's only 1%. And I think about that in my head, like, am I really the like, I'm in the 1% right now, like I'm in the 1%. And same thing. I have family member that still deal with it. And a lot of people are like, why do you talk about that? I'm like, well, if it comes up, I talk about it. It's part of who I am.
It's important because there's people going through it that need to know you can come out on the other
Exactly.
side. You can be better. You can get better.
4 years ago, let me tell you something. I had no electricity, no running water. I was wandering the streets. Like I weighed 86 pounds. And that was only 4 years ago. You know what I mean? I've been clean 31 months. I think it was 2 days ago, 31 months. So, you can turn around real quick. And I know when you're in it, like a lot of people think, okay, that may work for you, but that's not going to work for me. Trust me, I thought that too. I thought like, never me, not me. That's not going to work for me. But you know what? It did. And, my son saved my life. I tell him all the time. I said, remind mommy when you're older to tell you how you saved my life. And he's just like, yeah, he has no idea what I'm talking about.
Had it not been for her, I would have killed myself using this
started
drug,
using
but
at
I
30.
had her. and she anchored me.
Yep.
Like, she kept me in reality. Had she not been there in my life, I would have been gone.
Oh, forget it. I started using at 30, car accident, with the painkillers and all that. Just like I was like so anti-drug, anti-alcohol, but I know this kind of took a weird turn, and I've got to get ready to go to bed. I've got 13 minutes. I'm so tired.
You can do it. No,
I
I'm just
know,
kidding.
I could do it. I got this.
If you need to go to bed, me and Steve can handle this.
Yeah,
We
can
got
I
this.
just? Yeah, I gotta get this off and get ready.
Well, okay, so before you go, can you tell our listeners where to find your YouTube channel, where to find you on Facebook, or wherever else you may be?
Sure. If one of the mods, because I don't know how to do it, can put a link to my YouTube channel. It's just Gemma Jade, the way that it's spelled right here in the chat. And I do DeZombified's channel. It's YouTube channel called DeZombified every Wednesday night from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Steve and I do a live stream for 1 hour called Real Evil, and we discuss true crime, really evil stuff. We did Unsolved last week. We talked a little about the Black Dahlia, moms who kill, all kinds of things we cover. We do a whole series. On Friday nights, you can find me on one of Steve's channels, Missing Persons and Mysteries, from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time. That's Eastern United States time. And I don't know the other times. I'm sorry. We do Campfire Tales, where normally we will interview someone from the paranormal community or another YouTube creator.
We
and that's
even
for an hour.
interviewed Tessa one night.
Yes, and then on Sunday nights, from 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Time, we do Fireside Chat, which is just us talking about everything and nothing. I don't remember interviewing you.
You might not have been with me for
I
that
don't
one.
think I was there. I think that might have been.
I was going to say.
I had her, and then I had Connie
usually-
Koenig like the next week, and I know you were there for that one. But I
used
think
to
you
delete
missed Tessa.
every few episodes, but now
Oh, yes. Connie is so amazing. I hope she does really good with what she's doing right now.
Yeah,
I don't think it's come out yet, but
we
she's
want
going
to
to be
have
on
her
a
back,
paranormal
but
channel.
she is so busy right now. But she just blew us away. She was telling Gemma some things that she had absolutely no way of knowing that were correct.
April, don't apologize. You do not text too much. I told you you can text me as much as you want. I may not respond to everything, and I may not respond right away, but I love you, and you could always reach out to me whenever you need to. And my YouTube
Not ever
channel,
feel
like
like
I
a
said, is
burden.
just, it's just Gemma Jade. She texts a ton, but so do I. It's just a lot of the times I can't respond. So I do read them though, and
same, April. We've got a group text thing going on. I don't always respond, but I watch what you ladies are talking about, and every now and then I'll chime in. But never a bother, never a problem. April, if you ever need to address me individually, then feel free.
All right, guys. So I'm going to head out. I love you all. Go in grace and be kind to one another. Be decent, and just remember that you could definitely make or break how someone's feeling, even if you don't even know them. So smile at a stranger, wave at a stranger, and have your best day, have your best night. And I love you guys so much. Tessa, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it. It was really great getting to know you. You're awesome.
Yeah.
And
We
I
gotta
hope we
keep
can
in
do this
touch.
again. Yeah, I hope we can do this again sometime. I'll definitely hit you up. And Steve, I love you. I'm probably going to talk to you in the morning because I'm going to be dealing with some stuff in a few minutes.
Okay, I can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I'll talk to you in the morning. Love you too.
Nighty night, love and light.
Love you. Good night, guys.
Night.
Yeah, let's see.
I'm so proud of her.
Yeah, she's great. Let's see.
I love her. I'm so glad you guys found each other. I love when that happens.
Yeah, it just works well together. And said we play off one another well, and we've got a lot of big ideas now that it basically takes the both of us to bring to fruition. So stuff that neither one of us
And
could
you
have
guys
done
are
alone.
climbing the ladder so fast, like so many followers and everything. It's amazing.
Yeah, I'll just set fire to the channel.
Don't do it.
Put a little fire in there. I was trying to look in my short list there and see. I'll just put that up there because we just got about 10 minutes left. But yeah, we kind of strayed away from the true crime a lot, but we did get on it some. But that's just us. We're all over the road anyway, and that's where I'm most comfortable. I don't like the right lane or the left lane. I'm all over the place.
Me too.
And I thought so. And I told our audience earlier tonight that you were kind of a wild woman that don't go in with any expectations or anything other than a fun show and you're going to be entertained.
Yeah, I just like to fly by the seat of my pants, and I'm more
Yeah.
comfortable there in chaos, I guess. I don't
Say,
know.
I
And
couldn't
there's some
tell
things that I
you
think,
how many shows I've done that on where I've been invited to come and talk, and I have no idea what I'm going to talk about till the show starts. And
hmm
my dad used to accuse me of being able to talk until I thought of what I was going to talk about, or until I thought of what I wanted to say. And I do. I've got the gift of gab. I can go on talk 3, 4, 5 hours. Doesn't bother me.
that's awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah, and when you connect with somebody and you got stuff, I think things pop up that need to be talked about, with the whole addiction recovery, so on and so forth. Even the paranormal stuff. I mean, this is
yeah,
happening to a lot of us, and there's more and more each day that it's happening to, whether it's addiction
yeah.
or paranormal or whatnot. There's so many things happening
And the
right now.
world is just getting crazier and crazier, and things have changed so much. We're in a whole new paradigm. Sometimes I wonder if the Mayans didn't get it right, and the world did end in, or the Aztecs, and the world did end in 2012, and we're all in whatever's left after. If we split off in a new reality or something.
Yeah, that's pretty funny because June Lundgren, I was talking to her about the same thing I told you guys tonight. Like, October 31st, 2 years ago, that's when it ramped up for me.
Mm-hmm.
But she's saying, no, no, that was like 2012, 2013. And I'm like, what?
And
And that is when the Mayan calendar ended. And then they're like,
yeah,
oh, wait a minute, it could be this year.
and
But
then
nothing ever happened
are you
both
kidding
times.
me? In the chat here on YouTube saying it's CERN, and I do wonder what they're up to over there. I'm
Yeah, the
One
God
of these
particle
like a
collisions.
rift in the space-time continuum, and hideous apparitions from the apocalypse are going to pour out or something. And I've heard that theory put forth with the modern UFO stuff. When what 1947? Well, the year prior to that, that was when Jack Parsons, who was he was a big guy with NASA, the JPL. He started the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and but that was also that year he was out in the desert with L. Ron Hubbard. They were both devotees of Aleister Crowley, and they were trying to do the
Yeah.
Babylon working out there in the desert. Well, then less than a year later, about a year, whatever it was, then you've got these strange flying things that show up in the sky. Who knows what those guys did and turned loose? So I don't know. I've even heard Crowley blamed as for the Loch Ness monster, although I think it was there before Crowley came
Yeah, I think
around.
like from when the ocean flooded the whole earth and then it went
Yeah,
back down, and I think they've always liked the lower levels of everything.
yeah.
They're not only in Scotland, but there's somewhere else I saw another sighting of a Nessie.
Oh, there's several like in the United States and Canada. There's the Lake Ogopogo monster. There's Champ, the Lake Champlain monster. There's several different
hmm
lake and sea monsters throughout the world. So who knows?
Yeah, they're pretty intriguing, and they seem kind of like from the dinosaur era.
Yep.
And they said that humans and dinosaurs didn't live at the same time, but here we have dinosaur tracks, and then there's a human track that crosses it. Like, this is from the same era, basically. It's set in stone at the same time. You can't tell me that we didn't live at the same time as dinosaurs.
No, I think if you ever watched that kid show Land of the Lost when you were little, I know
hmm
they made a silly movie with Will Ferrell about it later. But that's kind of what happened to them. They went over a waterfall, went back in time, and they had to contend with not only the Sleestaks and the little furry people, whatever Chaka was, but they had to fight dinosaurs and run from dinosaurs and stuff. And I think there was a time when that went on, when everybody and everything was sort of there at the same
Riding
time.
dinosaurs?
Maybe, but a lot of stuff. If you look at it, I've heard that a chicken is a relative to a T Rex, and if you look
hmm
at them, how weird they are. Like especially if you take the feathers off of them, they do look like some kind of dinosaur in their feet and stuff, their little claws. So I don't know. I there's stuff that doesn't make sense, and they found things in rock that's supposedly millions of years old, like a battery and a wristwatch and a modern
Uh-huh.
coin. How did that get down into
Pickaxe.
the strata? That's supposedly millions of
Millions
years
of years
old.
ago.
Uh-huh. So that's evidence of time travel or a prior existence or who knows what. So much fun to sit and think about. That's the kind of things that rattle around in my head when I'm not writing or
Me
recording
too.
or anything.
I even tell my kids, I'm like, I'm pretty certain that we've been here as humans several different times and we just keep destroying ourselves because the majority of us are stupid. So,
Yep.
you know, we're going to die again and then live again, and we're going to have so many different eras, but there's no way for them to pin this down. And there was even something that I read recently that said even the timing of the dinosaurs, like they got the years wrong, and there's still dinosaur sightings today. People in different countries are sighting dinosaurs. Even here in Cortez, Colorado, there's dinosaur sightings.
Yeah, I just did a thing the other day about the Bridgewater Triangle with Clyde Lewis, and people have seen pterodactyls there, thunderbirds, basically a flying dinosaur. And then you have, I can't remember the name, it's in Africa, Maleke Mimbe or something like that, where it looks like a brontosaurus that was spotted there not too awful long ago. It's been several decades now, but modern times. So.
Well, unfortunately, we are at the end of our time, but I wanted to thank you once again, Steve, for being on and for bringing Gemma. Yeah. She is so awesome. She's a wonderful gem. I'm glad you guys connected and that you're working together, because you guys are awesome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us on. Thanks for letting me bring Gemma with me. We're that power couple, Stemma, so we do as much stuff together as we can. The audiences seem to like both of us. But thanks again, and get in touch with me, and we'll get you figured out for producing the video segments for you going forward on Saturday and Sunday nights.
That would be awesome, and thank you so much again. You just took a huge weight off of my shoulders. Like I said, I've been fighting with this video stuff for well over a year now, and I've been praying for something like this. So thank you for answering my prayers.
Never thought I would be an answer to a prayer unless it was a silly prayer, but here I am.
This is very important. Thank you so much again, Steve. I hope you have a good night. Did you want to share your different links with everybody? I think we went over a lot of that. Is there
anything covered? Check out my new book on National Park Mysteries and Disappearances, Volume 1, the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. I'll put a picture up here on the YouTube screen of it. But got Volume 2 coming out around the end of August, and it's going to be California, to include Joshua Tree, Mount Shasta, and Yosemite, among others. Also, my book, Strange Thing in the Woods, My Strange World, and then other stuff I'm working on, of course, Missing Persons and Mysteries. I do all the narration over there. Got a lot of good stuff coming up, and do stuff on this channel, mainly music shows, and now your show on here, and then have 13 Past Midnight, where that's my personal channel. I narrate true paranormal stuff over there, and do the ghost stories at midnight, which are fiction. So,
well, thank you so much again. Nighty night, love and light.
Good night, everybody. Thanks again.
I made it before the clock ticked down.
I know I was running on too long there, and I'm like, I gotta hurry.
It's okay. It's all. I think what you were saying is more important than I say at the end of the show, anyways. But
not necessarily.
Well, I think so, but that doesn't really count for nothing.
Well, thanks again, and on behalf of Gemma, thanks for having us on. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I've got a podcast to record with these guys in an hour where I'm the guest, and then an hour after that, Ghost Stories at midnight. So, yeah, I've got a full plate up until midnight anyway, and then I can relax a little bit. And I usually go on over there and do a monologue.
Writing your biography.
Half hour, an hour sometimes, and then, so...
Yeah, all the stuff you do, somebody needs to start writing your biography, because people don't even know. You're amazing.
People wouldn't even believe it if they didn't show up at the shows. He didn't do all that. How can he do all those things? He can't be in two places at once, but I can. I've been on a show on Saturday night before and doing, say, your stream or Dave's stream through the week, and I'm doing that at the same time I'm doing the other thing. So I can do 2 or 3 things at a time if I got everything set up just right.
You're so awesome. I'm so grateful for you.
Well, thank you. I like what you do and like who you are and the energy that you give off. So look forward to producing the video for you. All right, I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye to everybody in the YouTube thing, and let's see, everybody on Spreaker's already gone. So thanks again for showing up. Thanks for the new subscribers. We appreciate it. We're trying to build this side of KPNL up, and thank you all for helping. Tessa, you have a good night.
And good luck with your future show tonight.
Tomorrow. What's that?
I said good luck with your future show this evening.
Oh, yeah.
Hope everything goes well.
I appreciate it.
I know it will.
All right. Good night.
Nighty night. Love and light.